drugs, an accident most likely, but he didn't see the performances get enhanced. I mean, imagine getting banned for using a drug and it didn't even make you better. Anyways, Chelsea have to move on, and now they've picked up one of the most exciting left-wing talents in all of football. Getting from 0.4 goals were about the same, but what really stands out is how often he tried to take players on. His dribble attempts were way higher than any of Chelsea's wingers in the 2025 season. Now, of course, we do have to be realistic. He was playing in a different country, a different league, and a different setup. But Chelsea were very eager to bring him in. At Dortmund, he ran the show on the left. In the 2025 season, he scored 12 goals and got 5 assists. They're not world-class numbers, sure, but it's pretty impressive given the fact that Dortmund were not great. He wasn't a Klopp's title-winning team. He wasn't a side that finished 5th and struggled to create. But even then, Giddens was the most dangerous player in the field. He was the one that was making things happen. In Germany, they literally call them the Unterschiedsspieler, which means difference maker. His numbers should go up. What makes Giddens so special is his speed and dribble. He's crazy quick, but it's not just straight line sprinting. His feet are lightning quick as well. In 1v1s, he's a nightmare. No one in the Bundesliga attempted more take on him. To be a part of. Those are two of the best 1v1 players in the world. Take on defenders for the sake of it. He's doing it efficient. His take on success rate was 45%. That means almost 99 in his position for progressive reception. That just means he's constantly putting himself in positions to receive passes that move the team forward. So if you're receiving a lot of goals, it means you're constantly helping your team advance. Yet it's not something this alone helps the team go out from the back. Now, yes, defensively, there's this one perfect 260 Danny only made an overlap and Giddens was a bit slow to react at first, but then he noticed he was down and shut the attack down. That's what you want to see, a young player who learns and adapts. But of course, what people do is the attack runs into him. Giddens is one of those leaders who can create magic out of nothing. He's still moving, which means he's only going to get better. He doesn't have more goals and assists in his game. He can easily become the best left winger not just in the Europe. And then one last thing, rating Manchester City's attack from Barresta to Lavia to Palmer to Delap, and now Giddens. The real Man City is still fielding empty versions of Gundogan and Bernardo Silva. I make this stuff up. Then we have Joao Pedro. At first, I was wondering why Chelsea are signing another striker after getting Delap. I think it's very clear why the Brazilian is purchased. I've never seen a player pay back his own transfer fee so good. Joao Pedro was literally chilling on a beach in Brazil. And then out of nowhere, Chelsea signed the Thompson plant, lands in the West. Jones was scored midway through the Club World Cup and immediately changed everything. He drops a brace in the semi-final. Then in the final, he pulls up a ridiculous chip and makes an overlap run that lets Cole Palmer score. This man played just 3 games, and I'm not even exaggerating. Chelsea don't win the Club World Cup without the 2 goals against Fluminense in the match. The kind of goals that no other Chelsea striker has scored right. The first one, a goal out of absolutely nothing. And it's not just about the goals. That overlap run he made up to free up space for Palmer. That's the stuff top players do. So unselfish moves. And you can already tell that Palmer is loving life, finally having someone else to take the pressure off his shoulder. In the final, his movement punished the PSG defense. He would drop into midfield, pull a center back with him, and that opened up space for Gusto to attack down the Juventus side. That's exactly how Chelsea's goals happen. All three down Chelsea's right-hand side. These are some playmaker in the body of the forward. He plays in between the lines, he helps progress the ball, and links up with everyone around him. He's the bridge between the midfield and the attack, which is something that the lack of Jackson just don't offer. Those two are great at running it behind and stretching the defense. So Pedro, he wants the ball at his feet and knows exactly what to do with it. Just look back at the Palmeiras. He didn't score, but he was the guy dropping deep, linking passes, and leading the attack. When you let João Pedro control the play, good things happen. And the best part, he can score and assist. That's rare. He was bright, score and assist for the 2025 season. A complete attack. Now, will he keep scoring outside the box bangers like the one against Fluminense? Probably not every week. He's not the kind of player who takes a lot, but he is the kind of player who shows up in big moments. He did it at Fluminense in Brazil, he did it at Brighton, especially in the Europa League, and now he's done it on the world stage in Chelsea. Some players just level up by better teammates, and João Pedro is one of them. And remember, it's a World Cup year. His motivation should be high. He'll want to get on that Brazil team, so we might see the absolute best version of João Pedro. Speaking of the Club World Cup, we got a glimpse at another Chelsea player at that tournament. Esteban is a monster. Let's just get that out of the way. Yes, Chelsea have much more fingers, but none of them have the ceiling that this guy. Madueke didn't have it, although he's still Pedro Neto doesn't have it. Esteban's potential is sky-high. Some say that we haven't seen this kind of hype about Brazilian talent since name. Even players like Vini and Rodrigo didn't get this much attention when they first left Brazil. That says everything. Now, we're just Brazilian league, but let's not act like that league is a joke. We saw what Brazilian clubs can do in the Club World Cup. They play at a high level, they have real talent, and Esteban still scoring as a teenager. He's got that samba flair. He can dribble out of tight spaces, block past defenders, and play like a 10 just as easily as he can play out wide. That versatility is scary. Esteban isn't tied to one spot. He can throw it inside, he can link up with the play, and just create a lot of chaos no matter where he is. It'll be up to Maresca to figure out how to balance all these kind of talents. Just that's what he did in the Club World Cup. Even in his team, he was a man of the match. He scored a ridiculous equalizer from the tightest angle, completely catching Marco Sanchez off guard. It was Messi like, and that's why they call him Messi. Even after the match, the top of the Chelsea players were excited for all of the first agreement. They just watched quick. Both left-footed with his skinny frame, was so smooth on the ball that it looks like they're running on the wall. Against Chelsea, Esteban started out in an attack midfield and popped up all over the pitch, especially on the right where he really tormented the man. But what's wrong with this is clear. He could retreat into his game, he would come deep to pick up the ball, drive forward, and then make really smart decisions in the attack third. He was also willing to work hard off the ball too. Esteban has a great mentality, almost Vini. No matter what happens, he continues to try to play. If a move doesn't come off, he has the shot, he gets back up and tries again. With Palmer, João Pedro, and Enzo Fernandez, the number 10 role will probably not open up for him. But on the right wing, that's where Esteban can really fly. Normal Madueke and so on, and the starting spot with so many matches in the year, both will get opportunities. It's important to stay patient though, given top Brazilian prospects at the time. But every Chelsea fan should be excited. There's a reason he was named a phenomenon. When he signed with Chelsea, he was promised a spot competing for the first team, not a lone move or a bench role. He's already shown that he can show up in the defender. He's already shown that he has the mentality to ride, and with the right coaching and system, Esteban could become one of the best players in the world. The other new player we have to talk about is Liam Delap. Chelsea desperately needed this time a proper outlet. Yes, he's the superstar name everyone expected, but he isn't here to make headlines. He's just here to put in work. He's young, skillful, and this is a striker who's already made noise in the Premier League, not playing in a dominant team, but from leading the line for a struggle. Week after week, Delap dragged Ipswich forward. He created the chances, he scored the goals, and he kept winning when everything around him looked hopeless. Wolves spent big money on England's players, including Manchester United. Chelsea are taking a smart move. They're betting on potential, trusting that this raw, fearless talent can grow into something special. And obviously, the signs are already there. Delap scored and assisted against Chelsea in the 2025 season. And the Ipswich got their first win over the League since 2002, and their first win over Chelsea since 1993. It's not for Chelsea fans, but now he's on their team. On an Ipswich team that only scored 36 goals all year, Delap scored 12 of them. That's 1/3 of their goals with very little service. And Ipswich can counter-attack the system. His job was very simple. Get the ball, step forward, and cross forward. Anytime he scored 10 goals in one player, averaging 1 goal goal every 3 games. But what made him stand out is how he was scoring. He was hitting it from distance, sneaking at the back post for tap-ins. He was always moving, always sniffing out a goal. And unlike many strikers who like to drift wide or drop deep, Delap is a proper number 9. He wants to make runs in behind and really stretch the opposition. The numbers show it too. He makes more forward runs into the box than most strikers. He's always looking to be in the right place at the right time. What's exciting is he's more than just a coach. Delap is a hybrid, or old school striker like drop ball. Years defenders just slips to the lead. One striker in the Premier League took the world round for turning that him in the 2006. The perfect example of what I'm talking about was Jordan next goal. He got the ball near the halfway line, shot one, but as the back, and then walked it into the top. For Bill, was fancy passing, just pure power and jump. Pull all that stuff. You know, they can turn over. And that's what he did and ends up beating. And he was really wrong. His best player, he was is expected to go is expected to go for. In fact, the lab ranked in the top 10 for expected goals for. Now that we have spoken about the shiny new toys, let's talk about Chelsea's established form. Let's begin with Caicedo. There wasn't that long ago when people were laughing at Chelsea needing £150 million, memes everywhere, pundits calling it a panic. Every midfielder was great until they faced this Ecuadorian. It's a nightmare matchup for those just waste from more aggressive. You try to turn away from him, he's ready to take. You try to swing past him, he's ready to take it. And it makes sense because he grew up idolizing the goal. And now he's walking in his footsteps. Just like Tante Caicedo. What makes him more dangerous is when he doesn't free into the ball. He plays for he breaks the lines. He starts attacks on his own. That's why he got multiple assists in the 4-5 seasons, like the ones for Chelsea against West Ham and Liverpool. His performance in PSG had become a brilliant season. I saw people having Vitinha and João Neves like they were Xavi and Iniesta reborn. Some were even saying that Vitinha just started out the world. I say he had started turning heads late in the 4-4 season for Pochettino team. But under Enzo Maresca, he's going to do a little love. And I'm glad that is just Chelsea started going through the midfielders. That's when people really start to post it. They will quickly notice this. They put Caicedo on the base and made more combined tackles and interceptions. He started all 38 league games. Yes, all of them. That kind of consistency is rare. The last Chelsea player to do that, Gabe in 2019, Frank Lampard in 2019, I see how it's both kind of different. I swear this guy's made of rubber. All see his leg bent in a way that legs aren't supposed to bend, and then the next game, he's fine. There were games where he was the glue holding Chelsea's midfield together. He ranked near the top of tackles, tackle win rate, ball recoveries, and interception. His presence gave players like Enzo Fernandez the freedom to control whether Chelsea used him as an inverted fullback or switch shapes mid-match. Caicedo was the anchor, cleaning up danger, starting attacks, and keeping the balance. Even when Maresca used him as a right back, he still looked elite. He's not flashy. He's not always going to make the headline, but every Chelsea fan, coach, and teammate knows that's why when it came time to go for the season, they were going to make this football and work. I said one more line of Chelsea defensive midfielders, Makelele, Matic, and he's already learned a spot. His standpoint is that he's still only near his prime. He's only going to get better with time and experience. Let's not forget, just a few years ago he was still playing Ecuador. He hasn't been a top 5 football player, and he is already one of the best in the world at what he does. And Zamora's probably the best defensive midfielder in the world, and a different match, Caicedo is proving it right. How can we talk about Chelsea's midfield and not mention Enzo Fernandez? This is a player who joined when the club was at rock bottom. I saw him in the game. People were making tables, tracking how many times Chelsea lost in Enzo 7, as if he was the problem. It didn't matter that he had just won the World Cup and had been named a young player for all the noise, drowned out the truth. But here's the thing, football doesn't work like that. No single midfielder is going to fix a broken season, and that's exactly what Enzo walked into, a team in chaos. Fast forward to now, and with better players around him and a manager who believes in him, we are seeing the best version of Enzo Fernandez. Maresca changed everything. He went to Enzo and then see a deep line 6. He saw a hybrid between 8 and a 10, so that he could create, score, and run the game in the final third. And he believed in him so much that he even moved full corner to the wing at times, just to play Enzo in the middle. We saw it on the Club World Cup. Enzo running the show from midfield, creating chances, keeping control. We had also saw it again in the Conference League final before against Real Betis. The plan took some time, but it clicked. You think the start of the 2025 season, Enzo wasn't the starter. That's for 4 straight league games, saying he preferred the physical presence of Lavia and Caicedo, but Enzo didn't start to prove his work. And once he came back to the team playing higher on the pitch, Chelsea's attack opened up. Remember that goal against LAFC in the Club World Cup? That was the fourth. The way he timed his run to finish the last score was almost identical to his goal against Liverpool. By the end of the 2025 Premier League season, Enzo now directly played 14 goals. If for those who watch Chelsea play, they'll tell you the stats don't tell the full story. It's the passes that lead to the assists, the perfectly weighted balls that break the press or open space in the front third, like the insane pass he played to Madueke that landed right on his foot in the 6-yard box. You don't see those moments on rating apps. They matter. And what's crazy is that Enzo's already played more games for Chelsea than he did for River Plate and Benfica combined. That's pretty wild. And many of those games, he was already a captain. The rest comes with a reference on the pitch, a player others look to, not just for his talent, but for his leadership. And after the controversy from last summer's Argentina team bus video, he shows the world there has been no last adjustment, and Enzo's man everything control. He's come a long way from being walked online to become one of the most important players in the rest of the season. He's no longer just a World Cup kid, he's Chelsea's repeated midfield. And now, finally, the world is starting to see it. Can I really make a Chelsea video and not talk about Cole Palmer? I saved him for last because, let's be honest, everybody already knows he's not just Chelsea's best player, he's the face of the club. And it makes him doing it all. I honestly think he can become the face of the Premier League. We're already seeing he's starting at night. He's everything. And as they said in the commercial, he's scary good. And once again, in another final, he delivered 2 goals, 1 assist, best player. It doesn't get much better. But this is clear. He was also great in the final against Betis. It's become a pattern. Palmer steps up when it matters the most. The bigger the game, the better he plays. He's one of those rare players who is that's what makes him so special. As soon as Chelsea entered the business end of the World Palmer elevated his game. He was played out of position left against Benfica and still managed to pick up an assist. Then against Palmeiras, embarrassed the champions, scoring a near identical goal to the one he got earlier in the tournament. Command C. Copy, paste. And don't forget the assist before Pedro. Palmer picked up the ball on the right, had too much space, and punished PSG. Simple as that. You cannot give a player of this quality that much time. he would make you pay it. But Columbus' performance in that final wasn't just about goals and assists. You know, according to The Athletic, no player made more progressive carries than Paul, no player was involved in more attacking sequences. Like I said, he really was everything. Controlling the tempo, breaking the lines, living up his teammates. It was the kind of all-around performance you rarely see in a player so young. And he was absolutely worthy of the player of the match. What made it even sweeter was the context. Paul's form in the Premier League had been a bit up and down, especially later in the season. He started the year on fire. That performance against Brighton was unreal. One of the best individual displays I've seen in a long time. Every time he touched the ball, I was like, yeah, that's probably going to come. After that, he struggled. They went their shadow. So just to bounce back and carry Chelsea to another trophy, that's not wrong. He also took the help down and Joao Pedro at the last. It was the last unselfish run that helped Palmer score his primaries. Joao Pedro did the same with overlap against PSG. Then, because the rest of the shot was excellent on the ball, his team could play more direct and fast, which again benefits Palmer. If a bad season for him is 18 goals and 14 assists, along with 2 fantastic performances that won the trophy, then he really already is a superstar. Now that I've talked about the stars, let's give some love to Chelsea's other players, because they don't win the Club World Cup without the left star of Robert Sanchez. I've first mentioned the one before, and I still think he's the elite level keeper that Chelsea needs long term. He's kind of sure of goals or runs, but very well to do. His performance in the Club World Cup was top class. It wasn't just a save. It was kicking and long passing that really helped Chelsea go direct and attack the space behind in the final. Without Sanchez's ability to play out from the back, Chelsea wouldn't have been able to target PSG's left flank so easily. So yeah, props. Then Reece James, what more can you say? Whether he's a right back or coming into midfield, he just moves his quality. He's very calm, he's powerful, he has a golden ability. This is what I just keep this guy fit, because he's one of the best players in the world in his life. He's one of the biggest rage baiters in football. I would absolutely hate to play against him. He's annoying in the best way. He's always in phase, always intense, and never lets up. Just ask Ron Evans. He really got his hair yanked out. For what he's trying to at one point, it looked like Brian had scammed Chelsea, but now he's been the best left back at both the Euros and the Club World Cup. He knows what he's doing, and he knows how to do too much. That kind of self-awareness is good, and that's what makes him so important. Has the mental also possesses his well. He was great for fun, and no really rounds on the Club World Cup. And his speed with and without the ball has become a big weapon for Messi. He's understanding his trust, and you can see why. When he's on the pitch, Chelsea have an extra gear going forward. And let's not forget the center backs. Levi Colwill has been solid, calm, ball, physically strong. He's getting better game by game. And not just Trevor Chalobah. His story needs more love. Chelsea's not going to treated him like he wasn't part of the future. They stayed professional, didn't complain, and waited for his chance. And when he got called back, he took that chance and established himself as a star. He's been well solid, reading the game well, making tough tackles, and showing his loyalty and mentality everyone needs. As long as they can and still give everything. But Chalobah did. These are the kind of players that hold the squad today. Maybe they're not always in the startup, but they step up when it matters the most. Chelsea may have their strengths, but the team as a whole has helped them win their trophies. They were also helped by Maresca. How important the Italian man has been, and what his game plan is in the food, you have to check out this video right here.
Chelsea smashed the transfer window again. This is Ben Mendes. Also the age. Because how good is the squad for Chelsea in the next 5-10 years will be one of the team that is going to dominate English football. The fact that he has no idea what's coming.
Esteban, Neto, Palmer, and some others, Pedro, are fit. They're going to create trouble. That's for sure for any defense.
Right now, Stamford Bridge is home to the most exciting moments of English football. But this isn't about just England, it's about English football. And Chelsea will do it.
Yes, this seems more than because I don't think there's a team right now who's ultimately consistent, because we've seen everyone dropping points left, right, centre. So that enables Chelsea to, I think, be close, because they're not going to bang it 25, I think, but they're going to win more than the outside.
This is about it's about to terrorise the Benitez from day one. Esteban Willian, the 18-year-old Olympic Miras has landed 40% of the world.
So it's really interesting to see the relevance there are and how it changed from the first to the second half. In the first half, that happened down and down right hand side, and every time that he was going after the defenders, whenever he was going outside, inside, you felt like something was about to happen. And said that he's 18 years old. Maybe is he ready? Is he not ready? If you base it upon his performance in the first 45 minutes, then
12 goals, 5 assists last season, and for scoring against the biggest teams in the league. Chelsea themselves were their one to violate QC. On the ball, Pjanic. Off the ball, Lens, and the chemistry with Cole Palmer instant. Alongside him, Joao Pedro, possibly the signing of the season.
We've got players like Joao Pedro going to step up and perform like that. That is an introduction to this Chelsea man down there. Joao Pedro is not just a man that can take it. I think it's got bangers if
Was ready to break the streak and towards Chelsea since Diego Costa, striking capabilities of 25 plus goals. Destroyed the club over 5 years. He's capable of becoming one of the best players in the league. The potential is there. And he's also leading him to score goals in the bottom together. Get from through the wide open leagues and ranks. Gets into this. It leads to the club. 10 goals. House's recruitment strategy was shot. Since Tom Bowley took control in 2022, he spent a slapping €1.6 billion on new signings, more than any other club. This isn't just about the big, it's rewriting the limits of ambition.
No other club have forgotten to do this. Napoli, billionaire, and they're kind of just rolling in the wall. They've got an incredible academy system where they pull players up into the first team or sell them, so they kind of keep kicking that PSR can on. They don't like that 3/4 of the best 18 to 21-year-olds in the world, and then a couple of them get to the first team, but it's working.
So Mykhailo Mudryk and Enzo Fernandez, Joao Felix, Deal felt a bold statement, but also raised serious doubts. Putting some big questions, such as the historians of Britain, thousands to Paris Saint-Germain, working endless resources, no guarantee of victory. So it's a big club.
Chelsea have just got to stop paying players, and players have been dismissed from Chelsea. I don't know why if I was a player I would look at that Chelsea photo and why I would just say the only reason I would sign is because someone might say the age of my son, but in a second year I would think that's because the football history has medicine.
Some mega projects fail, yes, but some become disastrous. Just ask Manchester City. Chelsea have been dangerous and close to the pit. Nobody expected them to wait to break that every time they see competition.
all really want to win. So I think that it's a big thing and should be given and maybe build a connection between the manager and the supporters. I don't think it's a lot less. Even though it's not the season, the goals are so much. So I think it will help do that. I'm not sure it push Chelsea any closer to the title. I think actually don't really know how to play it. Because you feel you know Chelsea did business over the last sort of 2-3 years. It feels like a lot of the players change and without anyone really lifting them up. I don't know how to do it. All the wingers feel like the same. It's like players that need the rest of them. And I think maybe exactly because Giggles comes in and Becky leaves. You're going to elevation. And that's what I see that with a lot of position of good at Chelsea. I think that's true. And you're probably correct. I don't think we will win the league. But you know what I think this summer has done? And also winning that Super Bowl, I think it's this time last year you were talking about Chelsea in the same breath as the competing teams at the time we were maybe talking about the top. So we put Chelsea in that bracket that we're competing for the top 5 open division. We've left that behind. We've now moved the run above. I think that you now talk about Chelsea as competing with Man City and Spurs.
We're not after the turbulence of rebuilding, not after stacking the squad with so many young players still finding their feet, but slowly the pieces are clicking into place.
It is a massive loss. It was the
All the starts with Esteban, 17 goals in the record, 33 million on paper. That's already a huge investment. In reality, it's a bargain because Esteban isn't just another young signing, he's an artist.
Side, and every time to the defenders, whenever he was going outside or inside, you felt like something was about to happen. And you have to remind yourself that he's 18 years old, that
we thought, well, maybe is he ready? Is he not ready? If you base it upon the performance of the first 45 minutes, then this is a player that you can certainly.
He brings magic, samba, yoga, bonito, goals, and the kind of creativity that can decide finals. A lot can happen in a year, and for Estevao, it's been a whirlwind. The whispers about his talent had been around for years. Even as a kid, barely a teenager, he was already nicknamed Messinho, or Little Messi, in Cruzeiro's academy. Just 14, he switched to Palmeiras and led them to a string of youth titles. Brazil has seen countless young prodigies rise with the promise of greatness, only to fade away before reaching their peak. But Estevao is different. There's no big jump from promise to reality without missing a step. At 17, he already boasts 5 senior caps for Brazil, and earlier this month, made his first step in the second shot, ability for a game against England, truly has a touch of energy to it. Defensive line, last season, still not to the age of 18, finished just 2 goals shy of the top scorer, Brazil's senior, also most assists, 1 moment to 5 points. And this Copa Libertadores team faced Liverpool at Portugal, ghosted into the box, and scored with a far-post header. Not the kind of goal you expect from a player at this point. That night, his manager Ferreira made a plea in public, urging the Palmeiras president not to let him go. But the wheels were already in motion, Chelsea secured the start. Palmeiras held on to him until after the cap went on, but his destiny was all written. Estevao was released. It's no secret Chelsea was strong in depth throughout the team. Yes, they really have been so much genuine guitars, but Estevao brings something different, something unpredictable. At just 16, he's already shown the remarkable versatility. Naturally, a right winger in a 4-2-3-1, he's also been used as a wing-back, attacking midfielder, and even as a centre-forward, assistant marked. This ability to shift roles without losing effectiveness is one of the reasons Chelsea were willing to invest so heavily. Palmeiras' setup, he often started high and wide, looking the touchline to create opportunities. Drift into the right half space, with overlapping full-back ball, steering stretch defences, putting down his shot, no control towards the second half.
Given the fact that you think, well, he's just a winger, he's going to get after defenders, he's going to get after Grimaldo as he did today, and that's the limitation of the game, and that's it. But it's in the second half that there's such good that he can find inside the and then was the right moment. He plays his agents with the better explosive acceleration, and a rare opportunity to defend. He thrives in tight spaces. Drop of the shot, even when stopped, it doesn't matter. It goes again, over and over, until something breaks. Vision hints at a future-wide playmaker. He loves bending and swinging crosses, threading short and intricate passes, back and third, trying to spot the Then there's his shooting. It's electric. Left foot, right foot, it doesn't matter. He can whip a curve, such a long surprisingly no drive. Like any young attacker, his shot selection is still mature. His expected goals shows too many low percentage attempts from distance instead of working his way into higher quality positions. That's a habit Maresca and his staff will look to refine. Yes, Estevao has the tools. The real question is whether he can unleash them in the Premier. Judging by what we saw in the club his little dance, he's ready. Sure, he still needs to learn to be physically strong, but football has taught us over and over again. Intelligence can be brute force, and intelligence is something stable and absolutely abundance. Against Chelsea and Tottenham, Palmeiras had few real attacking elements, but every time the ball reached Messi, he changed. He didn't just hold possession, he dictated it. Always searching for ways to block the position of his movement, his understanding of where to be, when to be, stood out. Yes,
still has room to run. But when he gets it right, that means he his technique. The score goes on. Chelsea. We've already had a taste of it. Chelsea. Can't give him space. Those are the exact moments when he sprints, sprinting into the box, slicing through the flanks, creating chaos. Just look at his performance against Bayer Leverkusen. Every time the ball came to him, there was a pass.
It was really interesting to see the progress there and how intense the first to the second half. In the first half, died down the right hand side, and every time that he was going after the defender, going outside and inside, it felt like something was about to happen.
All of Chelsea's best moments, held up the first half, came on to the only goal saved, stayed on the wings the ball back on, created quick ball pass. Scores with a genius for Ellis cross. The ball touches on the bar, they say it's just
Now, Bender comes in the second half, he was on the right hand side, and now he's always been on winning central position. And still getting himself in position for Rangers and have them going after the defender, getting himself in position where he could be dangerous inside 18 while taking the ball.
You see the respect to Bender. Cheap back in the game. Chelsea bounce there, just swept the ball. Knowing the statement was ready to receive, the Brazilian, confident and aggressive, never hesitated to win the chance. Going for Esteban is the competition, so it's going to be very interesting to see what role and importance Antonio Messi gives in his first season. And there's another Brazilian star who's set to shine for Chelsea this year. It's João Pedro, and you've already dropped €60 million. 37 Jackson, another 35 million to win. Expect Chelsea to win another 4. And yet here comes João Pedro for €63 million. The first glimpse in might raise eyebrows. Why out yet another attempt?
Understandable. This one seems to be against Newcastle, so let's look at the Premier League right given it doesn't seem to be any logic to it. It seems to be a case of let's get as many players as possible, try and find the
This is
teams because in European soccer, everything is shown in this football that is the new ultimate goal next season. And can you imagine what the other pieces that they're going to have in their store again?
Now, add Esteban to the equation. Brazilian brings pure vertical threat, fearless dribbling, lightning acceleration, the ability to slice through defensive lines, and not with left. Defenders can't double down the power, because Esteban will go to anything with the ball. These three overlaps dangerous to more threatening than Liverpool's silent and physical strengths. More Arsenal's strengths, some better work, even more balanced than Foden, French, Manchester City. Difference. Chelsea have proven Premier League quality. Joao Pedro already knows how to survive and score. Cole Palmer's coming up a breakout season with 15 goals. Only Esteban needs to adapt to the Premier League's pace and intensity, and he's already shown against Bayer Leverkusen and Chelsea that he can hold his own against their previous league and the Premier League opposition. Joao Pedro is simply a better option.
So there's an improvement there. Do you think they're going to score more goals than Joao Pedro?
I would think so, yeah.
Do you think so? Absolutely, really? Yeah, so if the game's a good scorer, Joao Pedro will score all round, but he would actually be a goal scorer in certain form, right? That's why I think they continue, in my opinion. If we play, if we try and play the same move again, I would bet money for you that Ekitike scores more goals than Joao Pedro.
Yes, Ekitike joins Liverpool, the title winning side, but he's coming from the Bundesliga, like Florian Wirtz, who scored 10 goals and provided 30 assists. He will have to adapt to a fast step this season. Chelsea's advantage is that only one of their front three faces the challenge.
As it stands right now, I'm not transfer window 6 weeks, whatever it is. You can focus on their attack. I think Chelsea's leading scorer. And as a result, I think Joao Pedro gets more than that.
Most of the numbers tell the story. Between Esteban, Joao Pedro and Palmer, easily granted 40 goals. Last season, Chelsea scored 64 league goals, but lacked an efficient number 9. Joao Pedro fulfilled it. Esteban will bring width, verticality, and creativity. Liverpool's trio is dangerous, yes. Salah's 34 goals, 23 assists, make him a force of nature, but their other two members have no Premier League experience. The same goes for us. Gyökeres may have scored 50 in Portugal, but there's no guarantee of good assists last season, while Madueke contributed 7 goals and 4 assists. Good numbers, but not too good. Chelsea might just be the team who nailed the transfer window better than anyone else. They built thriving depth over the moment, especially the team. Jamie Vardy, Joao, Esteban, add that to the existing five. Pedro, Neto, just you've got one of the this responsibility. That kind of depth is it's a necessity. You need to go over the Premier League and the Champions League. Demands a squad with great levels of quality. Chelsea had that. We saw it against Bayer Leverkusen. It didn't matter who came on, who was rested.
But Chelsea, yeah, the pace that they have when they get the ball in transition, it's pretty amazing and threatening for the future game that they're going to play against the others. Because, I mean, they go fast, they're very effective, and if Esteban, are fit, they're going to create problems. That's for sure for any defense.
Yes, it was only pre-season. I think the crowd got any status. Chelsea might have had the best transfer window of this summer. Not just because of the negative, but because perfectly each side fits the system. And now, imagine adding Xavi Simons and Alejandro Iheanacho to the mix. Xavi Simons will just be the control center. His ability to dictate tempo, slow the game, recycle possession, intelligence, will give Chelsea a whole new level of approach.
The difference between playing for RB Leipzig and playing after for a big club like Chelsea. And there is a way to set up that. The figures are possible, but we don't know how it's going to be Xavi Simons. And if you have to compare right now, Liverpool and Chelsea, for example, you will say that Liverpool are the favourites. But it's encouraging to see the signing that I saw from Chelsea, and Chelsea can be, let's say, one of the contenders, but more, I would say more one of the 4 teams for the Champions League. But
with Simons pulling the strings, Cole Palmer could focus fully on what he does best, cutting through defences and deciding matches in the final third. Then there's Garnacho, explosive, unpredictable, His arrival would give Chelsea yet another weapon and stretching defences to their limits.
Chelsea, of course, need attackers desperately, Stevie. Garnacho, the latest one they've been linked to.
So I don't understand it. I mean, we've just heard Frank and Ali talking about all of these forward players, and you're thinking how they're all going to fit in with each other. Well, who's Garnacho? What is that? I wouldn't take Garnacho ahead of anyone. They're going to pay apparently over 50 million for him.
Yeah. Yes, Chelsea will have the players for every position. This is the second most roles past 60 games. This is the depth Chelsea managers those players are built to overcome every substitution across the pitch. Now is dangerous every match to plan if they were ever sacked across from. This squad looks solid, more than solid, it's ready to dominate. But behind this is below transfer. Yet the picture is a good way to Chelsea standing with a new year, one where every opponent knows that a single mistake, a single loss, concentration will be punished. Next season, Stamford Bridge won't be a stadium, it will be a fortress, a place where young talents can stay there and show givens will want to play this the current plan will orchestrate attacks with surgical precision, later on Pedro is the hard chance. This is no longer the Chelsea rebuilding success. This is a fully loaded, fully honest, Stamford depth stick. They've already shown flashes of potential, but the real story is yet. Because when this team clicks, and all these pieces fit together, Chelsea won't just be chasing trophies, they'll be chasing records. That's the future of the very, very The scary truth about Joao Pedro, nobody has noticed it. Chelsea,
What's good, YouTube? It's Justice H to be paid today. Video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the man of the hour, the man that everyone wants to talk about, the man that everyone has opinions on. Yoga. Starting to get more like overall to me, what those tweets were like, what I'm talking about those tweets right now, I'm talking about the jail code right now, I'm talking about stuff, Travis, that is very important help for actually getting things done. This all started with the big song but it's simple as calling that quote, better rap, rapper rap, slower rap, movie rap. And he also says Afro rap. That sounds crazy because there's a guy called Wise and there's a but that song came out and that was really like the first really big piece of music that he had gotten for a very, very long time. And then he followed that up with some new snippets of music that he was playing in the studio and then he was excited about the possibility of him actually dropping out and being a musician. And then he follows that up with a new song, an official release titled This is the song where he is apologizing to everyone, you know, well, pick up the phone, that song, you know, I came over to the video and everything, release date of his next project, UI's some little drop, months ago, some drop, release date was Friday, September 15th, now, America goes back to the 6th, because it was pushed back to April 8th, so I don't know what that means. Still picking up the phone, maybe he went to a resort where there's no phones left. We're just waiting to see what's going on with this album, what's going on with this music. But regardless, Young Gun is finally starting to listen, even listening to the advice that literally everyone has given him since he's came. I guess he's one of those people that kind of got to put their hand on the stove and feel the heat. They got to get it going before they got to pump it in something to start with their head. So that was like, even if they in this great flex space set, there was the music song. So it seems like we're finding the entire lap roll is talking about it right now. But the airport podcast episode 2, Snitching on the interrogation video. His name is everything. And it's close to us. It's super violent. Hey, if you don't think it's like, what is it? We don't think it's and find it out. Every day, let's go for it. Young Thug is like the simple elf rap sniper. Everything that surrounds Young Thug. And even though this isn't like positive attention, it's good attention necessarily, we want to talk about how good of a guy Young Thug is, how great the violence is, how much they love him. We're talking about, and this is probably the most attention that Young Thug has ever given in his career. He's solely focused on he's had big moments of attention before, but like, I don't think we've ever seen the entire rap hip-hop space really focus on anyone close to real, but but right now, it really is up for Young Thug, and he's on fire. He's a hot name. He's interviewed been multiple times the first like day or so. Anything with Young Thug's name on it, he's on fire. He's training, make a video with Young Thug's name on it. You're bound to get more people. So he's a very, very hot commodity right now, which is why he's restarting his role, because this rollout for this album started in like May. UI Scooty was being rumored upon like at the beginning of this year. The difference between then and now with UI Scooty is that then he was cold. Young Thug was ice cold back then. He was really starting that UI Scooty, was really trying to get into it, and was really actually like a few days away from releasing the album before he got pushed back. He was ice cold. Now, before the album came out, he released the song Money on Money with Future, and that song was cool. You know, it had like a shout out to Otis and all that stuff in it, but like, it didn't really do much. It didn't really do much outside of like that first week where it blew up, had some numbers on YouTube, but outside of that single, you know, Young Thug was pretty cool. And I think that if he would have dropped his album back then in May, he would have flopped. I really do believe that. I really do think he probably would have sold like maybe 60, which is, you know, that's not terrible numbers, but for somebody like Young Thug and how long he's been in the game and how popular he is, that is a bit low. I think that album would have went off like a fart in the wind, and it just would have disappeared. If it came out, some people would have talked about it. But in the moment of when he was going to drop it, there was not a lot of anticipation, not a lot of anticipation. So I guess we're looking at this album in perspective of like what it would be Young Thug's career, the numbers, the money you will make. This stuff happened to Thug, he might have been a blessing in disguise because it completely made that up. People were excited to hear what he has to say, and he didn't really have to do much of anything besides getting started on that topic. But regardless, going into this part, I am really excited to hear what this is going to sound like. I don't because Young Thug is one of my favorite rappers, but I also don't need it to be I would say that he's wrong, mostly due to his this is good bars, but I really think that's fair that somebody is where how much not able to actually have any sort of creative control like in terms of like dance specifically. Of course, we like pick something Talking Way, I want to sing a future, but like that wasn't really a Thug album in the sense of what we could get from the screen. So I think it's kind of a bit unfair to judge him off of the quality of that album. The last album that Young Thug did drop, however, was actually a free man, was Thug, and I absolutely love that album. Thug albums actually good album. So for me, Young Thug's definitely not much. I will say though, when he came out of jail and Dumb and Dumber dropped that song with Lil Baby, I was basically based on those two songs that I guess, but I just don't feel like that's what she's doing of Young Thug, especially like recently in the last 5 years or so, like, you know, like over creation, that was what music really has been so drop this album. In which he is learning to drop some snippets from like Shanae, that's the first one that really came out. I remember doing that a few months ago. And it was more like you heard it in the production really, or mixing wasn't going out. It was something similar. But it sounded good. That Shanae, it sounded really bad. Maybe you'll plug it. Maybe you'll plug it. But recently, good. It sounds pretty good. So that snippet actually is giving me a little bit of hope. Another one is the new snippet. People are kind of spoiling this one a lot. People are kind of turned around and Shanae that like some kind of guy. The one new snippet has people still pretty much 50-50. I think it's fun. That song sounds like classic Thug. That is so like it's so like whimsical and fun that sounds like a classic Young Thug song. So for some of the snippets that have came out recently, if you're not really feeling it, I can understand it personally, because everybody's different, so I can see why you would like it. But also at the same time, this is like very much Young Thug's type of music, so you might just not be that big of a fan of Young Thug's which they did. I guess you turned off the light, so that's not surprising. So this is what the song is. That song is fine. That more attention. I like I think that's yeah. I think Young Thug snaps on verses. I think the bars hit. I think that specific end of the song is based on that singing. He says, "You got that one." All that stuff is fire. Like those arguments, I've had that one 50 ever since it was so in terms of that song as well, it made me excited. I think that song up from the album. I think that would be a initial release because that's gotta be, right? But that song is one of them. Now, what's up? It's cool, again, it ain't like the worst thing in the world. But the way I'm going to go, I just can't really get it. But I will say, it's not terrible. But the other stuff, the Snake snippet, the Whoop-De-Doo snippet, those are just also, that song, the Little Baby that was made, I know that's going to be a little bit out there. That's going to be a little bit out there. That song is fire as well. So overall, pretty much everything that I've got from Young Thug since this whole genre is broken out, it's got me excited for this album. One of the more interesting things is what was that the album was pushed back due to people removing their music from the album. We don't know how true that is. That might be still, that is something and Young Thug is notorious for how much he networks in the industry. Like, if you've been popping over the last 10 years or so in rap at any point in time, you have a song with Young Thug. And if you don't have a song with Young Thug over the last 10 years or so, I don't know. I'm just going to gas people like that's just the type of artist that Thug is. So that's to make connections all over the industry. So when we get to this album, and Drake isn't there, and Future isn't there, and Savage isn't there, if Wham isn't there, and Wham isn't there, and I think that might actually speak a lot of where he stands after this entire situation of trauma. There is no way that a Young Thug is going out of jail. He's not going to be reaching out to these guys for reasons. He was reaching out to people for reasons or behind bars. He's into this time of the jail though. Probably going to say, hey, bro, send in this speech. Now, personally, I don't think that Young Thug necessarily needs all this speeches to think of it out. That's necessary, but we just know the type of guy that Young Thug is, so that's probably the most case if he's actually on the terms with public speaking. And if you get to this album, and there's only a handful of people, 3 or 4, they're like, YSL artists, label, that might be a bad sign, bro. That might be a pretty bad sign. Where it's a standard with all of these people over the last few years. Honestly, maybe if the album has no page, that might be the same thing, but I feel like him having no might be a better sign than him having 2 or 3 images super small by himself. I think if that's the case for this project, then he really might have been done better than the script that he spent the last decade of his life trying to do. Go back and look at that song in summer of 2025, next to the last 2 years. How do you judge this situation with Young Thug heavily influenced by this album. I've said it once and I'll say it again. The best VR any musician in the world is to the greatest networkers in the rap game over the last decade or so that might not be able to get a feature anymore from the it's called Rumble over the last decade or so. If all of this isn't included by an album that is considered weak or isn't considered very good, this might very well be the end of Young Thug's run of relevancy. You know, every single rapper has their day of relevancy, right? And they fall into the background. Right now, seems to be pointing toward this league with this movie. That's just kind of what to see all the Young Thug. It might sound hyperbolic to say that we might be reaching the end of the Young Thug process super relevant rapper movie. We're going to look at what's going on. Young Thug has been relevant for like a decade now. Rap. Getting close to over a decade, and that's just not something that happens to me. Most rappers don't have a run as a relevant rapper for 10 years. That's just not what happens very often. So he's already in extraordinary air. Like, lasting for this, he could have fallen off at any point if we were the average rapper right now. And I know that we like to look at Drake, look at him being super relevant for 15 years and being the number one rapper in the game for 13 years now, but that's just not good. So all of this happening at this point in time, everyone kind of wanting to see kind of the bigger of the ball. It's a really good this work happen. However, I see this as an opportunity. Everyone's eyes are on him. And personally, if you're going to ask me, like for prediction, do I think that this album will be good? I'm going to say yes. Now, I'm biased. I am a Young Thug fan. I admit that. So it's not like I'm deciding to look at me like, man. I like Young Thug's music a lot already, so I think that he's going to drop a good album. But what I've heard as well, Sinead X will be able to it's even the lead song, Baby. I think that this album is going to be very good. And maybe we're not moving to the end of it, but maybe we're just moving into an era of development. One where these kind as connected to the first industry, one where we're going to open every single trap out and see mandatory thug. So maybe they should kind of return to that Atlanta return. It's slowly working. Maybe some Young Thug is getting the sauce to use those different fast. Still, maybe this isn't the end of an era in the sense of maybe this is just the end of an era where he's going to have to move to bigger and better things, a lot more alone, and maybe just starting to restart the process of building some new artists who are signed to YSL. We don't really know. But regardless, that's what we do. This one, I'm pretty good. Like, subscribe, all those things. But yeah, time I could have.
What's Bobby? Looks like I may have been right that was the nail in the coffin for Young Thug, the leakers at least, because they got his girlfriend, who was the only person he cared about, the only person he genuinely apologized to, other than Glorilla. Wasn't a genuine apology. He apologized to her on behalf of his girlfriend. So that's the reason why that happened. And he was on the phone with his girlfriend. That's why he did that. And today we're going to see and Young Thug down that to break on they gave us 12 days of pointers. So it looks like they went to celebrate. But Academics, he decided to weigh in and grind the gears of the remaining YSL members that are free. And he said, "Fallen, it's new, and there ain't 3 new Young Thug pillow talking jail calls. I think it's time to know. I don't know what to do because there are rumors around the fan pages, which have been some of the quickest releases, that there is a Playboy party on you where Young Thug is trash talking Playboy party that's supposed to come out. I believe this. I think this one's the least impactful because Young Thug and Cardi are cool, but they're not tight we don't think of them as being together. Now, that At Me, if you guys remember that music video, I think it was the lead up to A Whole Lot of Red. That was the most Young Thug we ever got party as. He was moving zesty, he was kind of dressed like Thug, and he was influenced by Thug for sure. Shift, sound, outside of the natural, so we dial in and A Whole Lot of Red. And even now, you can kind of hear that Thug influence. But moving forward, academics said you may watch out for you want to go down in history as a class might be better than the Thug, Wayne, Ralph, Lee. Why does nobody talk about it? I've been listening recently. I got put on to a bad idea running unreleased crap. And I'll tell you, this is so long. And then I went down the rabbit hole. Yo, these unreleased last year. Look, people talk about party things. I mean, party drop projects are good. But Uzi deserves to be up here when we're talking about these, for sure. And I know some people will say, nah, you gotta check out the Juice WRLD things. Listen, man, I've only got so much time. I'm not gonna be able to upload. I gotta check out the Juice WRLD. I've seen at least 2,500 new songs leak over the years. People talking about it. But YSL is a stone cold. He's actually changed his life after work. We've only seen him on that positive stuff. But he got back on and said, the truth is gone. I'm out of it. And he's got Kodak Black, so Kodak didn't pay attention. So good choice there. I really do think some of the music selection for their iTunes stores says a lot about curation. So I put a lot of effort into that for my story. He says the truth, though I'm not okay after everything I've been through, my intentions have never been flawed. Even when keep in mind this guy was not going to go. Even when I took it, I held my composure and carried it around like it was nothing. Y'all hurt my family for me having it all back because your mother and sister mattered. I made sure they slept well at night, talking about snitching you something like that. When the world seemed to have a handful of eggs against y'all, your mother didn't deserve it. I put you first when I needed you to use time, and my man Luke stepped up. He needed a comment. This is a situation where he needed a comment. He said, my man Luke stepped up and saved me from y'all out. Hey, look, this is why I'm very focused on a certain way. And this is probably in response to the Young Thug interview where he said, yo, this beat was actually a good movie. It's really great. Like an situation that we can really take seriously. He used to get the wrong one. It's like it was great. Start a post saying, no, I'm not okay. Hell. The judge should have sentenced the whole YSL to group therapy after paying but I've never seen mental trauma like this. Thug hurt and find out this manipulation or it's actually where I genuinely believe that he's hurt by what Gunna did to him. And it's hard like he tried to turn the whole interview into something about Gunna or to bait out Gunna to say something and then Gunna goes on and does a little workout. So that's the punch-ups, some side planks. We're going to do a regular plank and we're just throw some alternate toe touches before I get on here for my performance while Young Thug is sitting there, fat, homeless, and no music, that type of fun. So with Rudy and with Young Thug, this is the thing. People are starting to feel bad for these guys, and this is where I think there's too much sympathy that is being had by you guys. If you feel bad, you have to respect. These guys, especially Young Thug, was a stone cold killer. He was talking about this crime stuff. He was talking about people's mom's house and shit. And this guy's talking about workout. Now, I do think he was emotionally hurt by this entire situation. But do you really care about the emotional hurt of a terror? Like, Young Thug was a terror. We have a certain relationship with Thug as we listen to his music. Or I go listen to his music. And for sure, that's going to be entertaining. Or he keeps talking his way, he can possibly have to take back again. Maybe with somebody who's cool. But academic goes on video and starts talking about this stuff. Some videos like this right now. You know, I like the legacy of the legacy. I like it. 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 I
But I'm gonna tell you what they got. They propagating crypto. He's a millionaire. Millionaire came from the bottom. They're obsessed with trying to portray the image that is realistic. Yeah, I can see what he's doing. He said, no, I'm not okay. Since playing street, like high school, everybody in that situation needs therapy. The reality why they don't need therapy is because they made it. When YSL was known by you and me, YSL was lit. Look, they weren't acting on the money. They still want to propagate the same book that the school and Johnny Welcome. They don't want to do it no more. They start thinking about their mamas, their sisters, their kids. Never seen some like that. It's the first time I've seen gangsters need therapy.
Can we even argue against this? This is facts. These guys were at the top of the game. Yo, you see the dates when they were committing these crimes. These guys are at the top of the game, and they're not truants. What are you doing? Why Lucci? At least you could say, like, yeah, you know, he had Every Day We Live, but he wasn't as big as Young Thug. Maybe he would have put it behind him. I don't know. Lucci was getting to the business. He was not playing around. But I can't help but feel like if Lucci was in the same position as Thug, he would have cooled out. He just wanted to be the top guy, and he didn't want to be seen as a sucker. But Young Thug, he was out here bullying people. And you can even see it now when he's not bullying people in the street way, but in the relationship type of way. When you hear him on the phone with all of these people talking about them doing the situation, just business. Think about how much of a shark he tried to move as in business with ruining the that interview and having the nerve to say, like, nah, he spent $500,000 on him, but he didn't have to spend money on him, and he never spent money on him. I'm telling you that. But wait, he actually spent $500,000, but I think he spent $500,000 because he wanted to show that he spent something, not because he actually wanted to help him out, because he wanted people to see that, oh, yo, he spent something. That's a level of projection that only somebody that would do something like that and think like that and is capable of thinking like that would put onto somebody else. That's what Young Thug would do, and that's what he's saying, because he's always saying, I never took a dime from Gunna. I put so much money into Gunna. So he thinks that P thinks the same way. He's like, nah, you gave him that Cullinan off of his money. And it's just like every record label does this. But you see how Young Thug was moving just on that business front. Now imagine how he was moving in the streets. We saw a lot of it on the YSL case. This guy was a terror, and success was not enough for him. He needed not just praise, but he needed to be the top honcho. Like he says, he has to rebuild in the interview. You think he's talking about rebuild a French? He's like, how can I just move on? How can I just go la-di-da, continue on with my career? These F people, these F dudes can do that. I can't do that. These F boys are going to do it. So the F boys are the ones that get out of prison, clean up their life, clean up their habits, like Gucci Mane, like Gunna, and they get to making music and are more successful than before. But what's the alternative? The real ones like you rebuild what? What is it exactly that you're trying to rebuild if it's not your career? Moving forward, though.
You know what they should have did? Man, the judge should have sentenced YSL to 20 years, everybody. 20 years group therapy. Kid you not. Let everybody meet 2 days a week, Tuesdays, Fridays. Everybody can bring their box of Kleenex. They can have their, like, emotional animal with them. It's the first time we've seen the trauma element. And I like this. I want to rap about this now. I rap about spinning, who you chew your noggin. I want to hear about how you felt lonely after you threw away fortunes and millions. But the reality is therapy is needed. Bring Gunna. Let that go over there and go do his silent treatment thing, because that's what he's been doing. Thug can keep talking about who betrayed him and Woody. I don't know, give him a math problem somewhere. Let him say his ABCs. It looked like the Thug claimed me not all the way there, but they all should be there. Mental therapy. And then I know, because there's actual victims in this. Like, I don't know if y'all watched the trial. It's the who allegedly did all the bullshit now claiming they're the victim. It's kind of crazy. I remember vividly there was a few families, 2 in particular, that sat through the whole trial. I know Thug was in jail. Don't wish I on him or anyone else, but still, there was a family that sat in court for 3 years hoping they would get justice. I remember all the prosecutors who got statements from people in the community that claimed that they were in fear for their lives on Cleveland Avenue. And they couldn't do this. I think they're the victims, not the millionaires. The millionaires still tormenting the hood can't be the victims. That's what I'm saying, but I could be wrong. I'm a civilian, of course. They should find the $1 billion.
because the most egregious part of this all is that I believe in the product of the environment concept. But if you've made it out of the environment, how are you then still trying to affect the environment? That's what he said.
This is facts right here. Although therapy would never work. You had Young Thug sitting in front of an OG to him, who he respected. And this guy was telling him, yo, you're tripping. Yo, I don't feel like you were focused. Yo, I feel like you're on some BS. And staring straight at him. And he's like, nah, what am I supposed to do? And the guy's telling him what he's supposed to do. And it just doesn't register. And then he basically hits him with the, all right, man, it is what it is. All right, let's fast forward. Same thing with 21 Savage. What 21 Savage was hitting him with. And 21 Savage has known him for a while, too. Like, when you see how these people that know Thug react to him, they realize, okay, this guy's got his mind made up. There's nothing that's going to change his mind. No amount of reason, no amount of telling him that this is a bad idea, no amount of explaining the consequences, no amount of explaining what has happened in the past when he's done something like this will work. So 21 was like, man. He just said, okay, it is what it is. That doesn't mean he agreed with him, but he just said, I'm not going to waste my breath and continue to waste my time for somebody's opinion to not change. And when it comes to like this whole therapy stuff, that would be funny, but therapy ain't working on a guy like Young Thug. But this is also why I appreciate Kodak Black's music. Like, if you listen to the Institution mixtape, great mixtape, by the way. Painting Pictures is a good album too, but Institution is exactly what Academics is talking about here, where you have Kodak Black giving you a completely different side to him, a very vulnerable side, and he does this in his music a lot. He's very clear in his music too. Like, when you listen to a Kodak interview, you're like, yeah, what is this guy saying? But when you hear the music, it's so clear and audible, and it's not just a microphone quality thing. His voice is just perfect on there, perfect to hear. Not like that, but even the melodies and everything, and he's talking about how he knows what he's doing, he knows where he's messed up, how he struggles, how he got into the situation that he's in. And he made a bunch of mistakes after. Like, Kodak Black is still kind of I wouldn't necessarily say a full-on crash out, but he's still a reckless guy. But we get that in the music. We need that from Young Thug. I do think that's the best angle he could take. But Young Thug doesn't think he did anything wrong. He's just going to make betrayal music of like, oh, these people did me dirty. And frankly, Gunna did do you dirty. We're not gonna lie there. But Gunna also feels like he got dragged into. I'm really torn on the Gunna situation. 100%. I believe that he told. I said that he told years ago. I didn't need Young Thug to tell me that he told. I'm capable of independent thought. That's something that people are like, no, he needs to tell us. Okay, yeah. Well, you're the same type of person that he told, like, yo, go slide on this guy, and then they go slide. But Young Thug is betrayed, yes, for sure, by Gunna. These other people, he didn't really give them as much of a career as he gave Gunna. And Gunna does owe his loyalty if he took him out of that situation. And there's a guy that's like an OG in between them, so that's a tough situation too. There's a lot of emotion there that can be brought out on the track. Like the leaked music video that Young Thug put out, it's okay. It's not a great song. I don't think it was like fully finished. I think it was quickly done. But if he makes music like that, I don't think he should be like, yo, this guy ran. Like, just open up. Especially after him breaking up with his girl. We get a buy one, get one free, really. Or really it's not, we're getting both for free, because Mariah the Science is going to make excellent music now that she left Young Thug and got betrayed by him, and Young Thug lost the only girl that he had, so he's going to make excellent music. So I'm eating on both sides. But let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed, and I'm going to see you on the next one. What's poppin', y'all? Oh man, they got that man out of Atlanta going crazy. And that is none other than Rollo Famgoon, the head of Pakistan. And we're not talking about the country, we're talking about the nation state, or the city state within Atlanta. But he gets on a call, and he's a guy that's had a relationship previously with Young Thug, and really been involved in Atlanta, both in the streets and trying to do music for quite a while. And he called into Academics, and he's been going back and forth. I did a video on it previously with all the details. He's been going back and forth with Young Thug because Young Thug tried to ostracize him from the streets or whatever after these allegations came out on his paperwork, which he, like I said, that's out of my pay grade, that level of, oh, did he tell or did he not? Because they said he said he lied to the feds, and people are saying, like, no, he didn't lie, and he actually told on a real crime. So we're not going to get into that, but he does go in on Young Thug. So I'm going to play you guys this clip first, and then we're going to get into it, because there are some important details that made me look at Young Thug a little bit different after this.
I'm just giving you emphasis. But give it to the kid. The whole lot of shit is about this nigga doing lying shit. Then he turned on the original Dawn, trying to turn whole world against original Dawn. And then at the same time, man, LG told us that it's on the that it was on the dark side now. Then it's on the whole world. And it was finished. It's the whole world. Yeah. Everybody looks back, look at this. This ain't wrong. Then, big future come future, come future. Like, going back and forth on my boom. Then he turn around, you see the surpassing everything in the industry. Now he comes to the street, turn everybody in the world against my gun. And say, oh, whatever one say, go against any time, whatever against him. He turn everybody against him.
Because I think that this music, it was tough music releases. And he got into the back and forth with Drew. He gets into the back and forth with Fusion. They start dissing each other. And then eventually they patch it up behind the scenes and they get back cool. Young Thug also made some comments on T.I. He also got into it with Travis Scott, but that was more behind the scenes, and I'm willing to say that Young Thug was a lot more justified in that realm. So this is like beef after beef after beef that Young Thug is getting into. And I'm like, yo, this guy must just be a hater who cannot accept if he's not only the center of attention, which is something that Ye also feels, but he wants people to behave in a manner that serves him. But he's like, yo, I think he got into a little back and forth with Sauce Walka too. So this is a ton of rappers that don't really got anything to do with Young Thug or haven't done him wrong. Then we get into the Gunna situation. Of course, I'm not going to say Young Thug's not justified in that. He's justified feeling whatever way he wants to feel about Gunna. But then trying to blackball, this is the thing. People will say like, yo, like academics says like, how can you blackball a baby? But that's the second thing. No matter what way you want to cut it. But it's because Young Thug's got a lot of respect within the industry and music too. I'm tripping with the Young Thug have a little snap with T.I. too. And they're competing this guy's work. And it's crazy that he's got Atlanta running like this because isn't he not even allowed in Atlanta? It's small areas. Because Rollin, he doesn't need to succeed in voice production. So he's there chasing. He knows everybody involved, but he doesn't need continued success, which all of these other people all these other people that are silent right now and avoided working with Gunna and went forward, it's not that they need were kind of locked out of music. You had people he made the song Twirl In, 22Gs, right? You had FBG Dub, all of these other, a couple of others that were talented rappers. It's not that they didn't succeed because they were good, it's because they got a hold of the industry. GDs first. And the hold of the industry needs producers, the rappers that they work with. They are not going to work with the ops of somebody that's really successful. So they're like, yeah, you know, that's what music, but we can't mess with you because you've got beef with this gang. Or your ops with dirt. And that's the situation that I see. It's not because Young Thug features with anything for anybody. We saw him on that song with Lil Baby that went nowhere fast. And we see Gunna without features going crazy. But still, like, great music is been able to consistent great music like Gunna has been. But other than that, that's why I think some people say really Young Thug and that I think it's producers and rappers that are loyal to Young Thug that or it's to like kind of step away from it. And Offset, he did do his own thing. And so, you know, but yeah, let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. Let's try that. Next one. Great. See you on the next one. Just talking to somebody state Young Thug and we're having a Meek Mill situation. He just this is one of the worst post-prison releases, post-prison favored and anticipated releases that we've seen. He always got to get Bobby Shmurda that he didn't tell because Young Thug and Bobby Shmurda came out minding his own business. Young Thug came out and he started, not even he came out, he was sending whispers. He said, this person told him, that's what this person said. It's not been a year, but it's been a very long time. We're going on 9 months, we're going on to Earth. It hit Mariah the Scientist, his girlfriend, Project Earth. Like, are we doing? What's going on? But the most recent one is he starts going back. Project Earth, like, are we doing? What's going on? But the most recent one is he starts going back. This is so people are posting this motion posted so as to be protected from yeah, so he was saying a lot of the police and then Young Thug posts this point and says this motion is protected from sending a statement about the police did and I never happened. Okay. But as you can see, Young Thug's Young Thug has not experienced the brute force of the smackdown of the internet since he was on Netflix. Because after that, he was just hated. Like everybody, they go on the so cool, the YSL face, everyone showed him support, he comes out, everyone showed him support. So he's been on the face that like, we don't mess with you, what you did was right, especially when it comes to his idea, his world, he was saying it there, there's a definition for it. It's not attack. It's another protest against it. Like he goes on to say, Snapchat make me one of those boys. Get before this thing. So first he says you gotta go gospel. We don't want to listen to Swiggy. And he says get before this thing. And he's still breathing. But what happens is this back and forth starts with Ron. Now, let me give you guys a little bit of background. Ron is one of these street dudes from Atlanta that was kind of 21 and nobody knew how to do this. world starts. Yeah, we're talking 2016, 2017. You still got a lot of juice from being close to the world stars. I remember, I think it was 2018, maybe. Was it? It might have been 2018 that they posted from Page, and it was really still it's been and that was because they got me like 10 pieces of time, and that maybe wasn't until it. So that was a huge deal. But now we're going back to it. Lots of people believe that Rollo told these for transport. Leaders think that they were ridiculous. He was trying to do it. He didn't know he get 20 years of he was awaiting trial for so many years. He was just constantly tweeting out, he was going to hold it down. He would never tell himself. Eventually, he gets, I think, time served, or he releases something. So Young Thug is one of the people that distance themselves from Rollo. But to be fair, I can tell you, high school graduate, at least middle school graduate, when it comes to proficiency in telling / ratting / snitching. I may even be I would say I'm a high school graduate. Okay, looks like a duck, okay, quacks like a duck, all that other stuff. It's a duck. It's obvious. Now, there's levels to identifying telling. Like, for instance, at Professor Emeritus, Professor Emeritus, we're going with my first gut instinct. Like, at that tier, the top tier, you've got Wacko Martin. That's Professor Emeritus. Now, we got a tenured professor. They sound so smart. That would be, let's say, it's 1090J. Right? Some people say he he's a tenured professor, okay? So he's allowed to mess up a little bit. He can't get fired. Then you've got PhDs. Who's a PhD in talent? I would say, not anybody that I can think of off the top of mind. But yeah, so I'm a high schooler. Now, to understand whether or not Rollo told, I couldn't tell you, because it's past high school. You at least need a PhD in telenology, snitchology, to be able to dissect that and explain whether or not he told. Me, frankly, I don't know. I haven't got into it that deep. I see what Gunna did, that looks like telling. I see what Young Thug did, that looks and sounds like telling. So it's high school level right there. Now, what Rollo says is he starts going in, and he goes in starting yesterday and says, I ain't going ish on you like you ished on me when everybody went against me. I'm going to pray for you and hope we can all get this ish back together. So he's throwing subs right there. And then he sends a message to Pee Wee Roscoe and says, you a hoe. Where you at? Let's meet so I can show the world how much of a B you is. And this is after Pee Wee Roscoe, who is the guy that Young Thug was saying was selling Wayne weed. He was the guy that he was offering him up in the tour bus situation. And Pee Wee Roscoe goes on to defend Young Thug on an IG Live, but calls out Rollo. He's like, yo, what Thug did, that's not telling. What Rollo did is telling. And Rollo's probably looking around, and we're looking around like, yo, what the hell would you bring him into this? It's not like he's popping or something. He's trying to deflect. So Rollo posts that and says, slap. And he says, you know I ain't going. I don't even know why F would play with me like that. Paint whatever picture you want of me, and I'll help you hang that ish up so I can show you how much I don't give a F. And then he posts that motion by that Young Thug replied to. So Young Thug saw Rollo posted. So this is like an internal Atlanta thing, not even just the internet. But he says, good morning. I just want to tell that ugly, fat B, Big J, she owe me and Gunna an apology for how she did this. That Big B won't be able to fit the spider sweatsuits when I get done with how much ish I'm finna talk. Nothing beats a jet to Holiday. And that's in reference to this girl, Baby Jade. So Rollo says, the big bouncer herself, back promoting parties. Are you working the door or kitchen? And yeah, he starts going in on her, and then Young Thug responds to Rollo, but he just screenshots it. And then Rollo says, well, B, I lied to the feds for real, and you still called Lil Baby and told him to cut me off because I wasn't right. So now you're going to have to go through what me and Gunna went through, and we waiting on that gospel album too, twin. Ooh. And then Young Thug replies to him and says, see, the difference between me and you is one of your friends said you didn't lie. You actually told on real people. So that's one of his friends, or former friends. You said that somebody actually did something that they was arrested for. I made an honest mistake saying that we sold Lil Wayne weed. So it's not telling anymore. It's not rad. It's not snitching. It's an honest mistake. Like 6ix9ine just got up there and gave an honest mistake in trial. Look, Gunna just made an honest mistake. Well, we really can't compare what Gunna and Young Thug did to 6ix9ine, or should we say A$AP Rocky? Maybe A$AP Rocky just made an honest mistake. A$AP Rocky is a completely different situation. Him and 6ix9ine, there's nothing to be argued there. But Thug here talking about an honest mistake. It sounds like Gunna had an honest mistake. Nothing that Gunna did even scratches the surface of that video that Young Thug. He says, trying to prove to the detectives that we wasn't beefing with him. You know what the honest mistake is? It was induced by these detectives that outplayed you and outsmarted you. And you know how you win being outplayed and outsmarted? You sit down, you shut up, and you call your lawyer, just like the baby does. And he says, see the difference? And let's not forget, you told Fonny you would take the stand on me and Lucci in our case to get out of jail. So, was that an honest mistake? Because we didn't see him get on the stand and, like, tell on you. I just don't see Rollo doing that. Like him on the stand telling, I can't see that. And then Young Thug says, I tried to free my mans. You tried to fry yours. At Rollo laughing. Oh, dear God Almighty. This guy's, he tried to free his mans. Oh, what is he freeing? Pee Wee Roscoe got time. Pee Wee Roscoe had got, like, he had been serving like 5+ years. Was it 10 years? I don't know. He had served a bunch of time already. He got sentenced to 20 years. And he was just hitting him with a free Roscoe and a salute while he was blowing up in the rap game, living life with Jericho Carlet at that time. Hey, yo, Young Thug is just, this is such a terrible run. And he's trying to win the internet and he's trying to win the streets on the internet. And it's just all bad. It is really bad. And I sent out a tweet and I said, yo, him and Meek are neck and neck right now. Like, at least nobody can say that Meek Mill told her there's any audio of Meek Mill close to tell. This is terrible. And the only person Young Thug has to blame is himself. Like, people wanted to defend Thug, but number one, he didn't give them any good music. Number two, Gunn has been given straight fire music. And number three, he decided to be this figure that's like, man, F these rats, he told, pointing everybody out, and now he's saying he made an honest mistake. And if you don't get the hell out of here with that BS. So I like that Rollo's on his head time, because Rollo really got outcast. And even Rollo's saying it. He's like, yo, you're calling these people on the phone, telling all these people to cut me off, which is the same thing that he did with Gunna. He hit up 21 Savage. He hit up all of these other people and said, yo, stop messing with Gunna. So now we need Lil Baby to speak up. What's going on, Lil Baby? And we're going to see a media blackout from these guys. They are not going on any platform that asks them a serious question about Young Thug, anybody affiliated with Thug. Because even Wack 100, who's cool with Thug, who's Professor Emeritus of Telling, he even said, like, yeah, he didn't want to make it disrespectful like he does with everybody else. He says, yo, that's a rat, that's this, because he has a relationship with Young Thug. But he did say, like, yeah, he was offering up a lot of information, whatever synonym that you want to use for it, a little bit safer language. Young Thug is frying himself, man. If he just drops some good music, this is all self-inflicted. And this is what happens when you're riding too high for too long. You think you're more important than you really are. And you're trying to win against the internet. Best thing Young Thug could have done is just shut up, wait a week, and then just keep tweeting. Like, this would have faded after 3 or 4 days. But in the thick of it, I just remember that song. So in the thick of it, he replies, which is like, yo, you should at least wait around now. Gunna's team is paying, I can't say this objectively 100%, but I'm 80-90% sure that Gunna's PR team or somebody associated with him is paying to amplify this. And the fact that they're doing that is brilliant. So it extends the life cycle of if just one person said it. Because, like, Traplo Ross had posted a video on it, and, like, it started to get tiny traction outside of his video, of course, but it wasn't spreading like it did 2 days after. And that extends the life cycle for another maybe like 3 to 5 days. So it is what it is there. Young Thug should have just waited it out, but he doesn't have experience handling these types of situations because his whole career people are saying, yo, this guy's underrated, he's the greatest thing ever. Not his whole career. After he got on, they were saying that. And Thug just gotta take it on the chin. Well, actually, I don't even know what to tell him to do because I don't want him to get out of this situation scot-free. Because you tried to screw so many other people. Frankly, like I said, Gunna is winning on both of these guys when it comes to music. Gunna's been dropping. I haven't even listened to the new Gunna project. I need to check that out. I might do that this weekend, or I might do that in the next 48 hours. I don't know. It depends how much stuff I have to talk about. I'm on here, like, I got the basement installed. I got the AC installed in the basement. So now it's cool. So, I got no reason to leave here and go listen to some music. Now, it is a little bit dark, so that is what it is, and I'm going on a tangent, so it's time to wrap this up. But yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed, and I'm going to see y'all in the next one. What's poppin', y'all? Just when I thought I was going to get a little break over the weekend, a little Saturday and Sunday to chill, you guys can see I don't even got my setup. I just got my laptop out. and I had to record this just because I had to get it out. It looks like they weren't going to let me any time off. But we're going to go over the future thing. We're going to get to everything, really. I'm on it. Just believe that. Shout out to DJ Khaled. So we're going to play some of this here. I think this is one of the most like heartbreaking aspects or back and forths that we've had. Not really a back and forth because Future hasn't said anything yet. And if you do remember, there was static between Future and Young Thug at least 8 or so years ago. So after that, it ended up getting patched up. I don't know if it was through Metro Boomin. We're going to listen to this audio, see what we've got going here, and if Young Thug issues an apology to Future.
Somebody getting that best foot, got him to the intention to she found some skills on your face, for sure. She found some more on your face, for sure. 100%. Sure, you got to bạn có thứ ba mà ngoài chuyện rồi đây mình thứ ba rồi đây hỏi này mình một thì đâu như anh đâu theo hẹn của bố số
This is even Halo talking. This is even backed by This is an interesting conversation he's having because he's talking to a mad scientist. He's talking to keep in mind, a mad scientist is one of those guys. Chorus 9, a scientist doesn't have any kids. Thug's 38, 39. It seems like he says he's 38, 39. It seems like he's had enough kids. Otherwise, he would have had a kid in the past couple of years. The scientist hasn't had a kid. They're dating. They're together. And he's talking. Just keep it there and she's not at part of her career right now. She probably doesn't want any kids because she just wants to continue her trajectory. And somebody like Cardi B has it's possible to have a kid, but Cardi B was an actual superstar, and I think that is an outlier comparison to other chicks that we have heard. I'm not saying that we have heard rumors and allegations that Megan Thee Stallion has hit out or pulled the plug on a couple of, or at least one potential hit. I don't know if that's true. I'm not putting that out there, but we've heard that from other female rappers as well. We've heard certain rappers that she did that too. I think Ford Red had that before. So there's going to be a point in time where scientists will probably think, because man, in the future, I want to have a kid in the future. So is this going to happen? I don't know if he realizes that he's still in that seed, and I don't see that there's children, like the mental seed. Wait, is this how you kids will be in the future?
They don't know. Got to settle down and get even cheating. I want to take Walmart, like, got 15, got 25 kids. I think Walmart got 25 kids. People want to look at him like he's bad because he's like real he's like super dare. Just one thing, that being whatever he's living to be. So women, he wasn't like disgraceful. Women wanted to have kids. Who knows, like,
I think this is very different because when Bob Marley was famous back in these chicks couldn't still have off of. Like there weren't TMZ and blogs and people talking about his familial relationships and all of that. Most of us didn't even know Bob Marley had it. Like most people, they just know, oh yeah, Bob Marley's got a long lineage now. But at the time, they just probably knew Bob Marley, his music, and that's it. For the most part, we didn't really know much about the artist's personal lives back then. And so I don't think it's like if he had a bunch of kids like right now, Nick Cannon, right? Nick Cannon, he does a pretty good job of keeping everything under wraps. But even Nick Cannon's situation, people do a lot of talking about that. Nick Cannon is just not exposed to us so often that we get to speak about it, right? There's not consistent drama. I guess he chose right, the chicks that he got. Some people will say, well, it's because he's paying. Yeah, he's taking care of them. But there are dudes that are taking care of them, famous dudes that are taking care of the chicks, and they're still calling it drama because they're just drama causers. That's what they want to deal with. They enjoy the drama. They enjoy the power that they feel that they have over the guy in. Kids, which is funny because if you watch it, he talks about spending more time with his homies than his kids. He's like, oh God, I spend more time with you than my kids. My baby friends are spending more time building you up than with your kids. So, what kind of advice is this? He's talking the future to spend less time with the chicks, but with the kids. But he's spending, at least future spending it with the chicks. Young double spending it with the devils.
Somebody getting that split, that young little eventually, she's not going to kill from your face, for sure. She's not going to go from your face, for sure. For sure. You got to look at that one, 5 months, that's 55. I ain't big enough. So, yeah, I think she'll have more shot.
This is crazy. He about like, yo, I know she does. This is the most gossiping talk ever. He has no proof whatsoever. Just saying that. He's got no reason to. And with Mariah, the scientist's response, you can tell she's like, oh, okay, we're going to shoot nonsense.
And the other one, I heard he always burned out.
Okay.
Like, the wordplay.
I don't even know that it's from her perspective. The guy is all the way from town. From her perspective. Yeah, that works.
It's the great money is when I started, when I figured out I stopped learning. When I finished, I started being like, I know they're going to try to trick me. I started letting go, and I became, you know, and then go. they become, I think, the best.
That's right. That's how they get their money. I don't know that a number of his kids for sure. Quite a lot too.
Well, Ricky D. Good night, thank you. So I do. Just on the player Ricky. But yeah, I think they have his keys.
So for this part, and he goes on to talk about future understands how to he doesn't understand anything except music, which that's completely fine. Then this next part is Thug talking about Future and their business deal. So this part, I think the other part of Future will probably get over to the end as me and chicks or whatever. But this part is where I find it. Also keep in mind the first, or one of the first tracks that I think Thug appeared on 2 tracks. One was the Baby track, and one was a track that he put out himself. Track that one of those tracks has Future as a feature, so he's one of the first people to hop on a song, which is a good look now. None of them turned into hits.
Yes, that's not the
do it for just like make it come up.
You have to know.
You get off the phone, you got a different place. You can't be replaced. I'm not calling you, man.
No, I know.
Oh, it was you on the phone?
Yes.
Young Thug was chatting so much he doesn't even know who he was talking to when he was talking. He was like, oh, that was you on the phone? I do think there's part of the future where he's trying not to do the show. I think he just doesn't want to tell him I don't want to do the show. Maybe he felt like Thug was asking too much of him. I don't understand why he wouldn't do the show, but I also don't understand what kind of a free Thug show would need to do for his situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I wouldn't. You know, I'm like, my kids are like, you know, you tell somebody, like, you know how they feel about something. They know how you feel about something. They're trying to, like, be like, oh, what you think I should do? I don't know how you feel. It would be. Oh, yeah.
I feel like that. I guess he ever made try to make fans of like going and how you feel. So he really has you feel. How I feel, so how I feel. And how you feel. Right.
Right.
This is where it gets like fun, goofy, and lame. And it gets publicized. That's something that you might be able to catch up with. Yes. This is funny behavior. Not funny in the chaotic way. There are people like this. At Future, he's like, yo, when it's me and you trying to get advice from me and you're trying to listen and you're asking me for advice. But when it's the chicks around, you acting like you don't hear me. And you're acting like, oh, you're the one that's doing everything because you want the front for the chicks. So this is real fake behavior. It's kind of like the homie that like takes down or knocks down someone else when there's chicks around. And this behavior, I can get why it's irritating. And Doug does not seem like that type of person that would do something like this, even after all we've heard from him thus far.
What's up like that? We like that, you know, play us. What kind of image trying to get off to these girls with two idiots, nigga? Like, everything you know, nigga, think you know, that's like, doesn't happen. But, nigga just, he by himself, he just, all the years, you know, that's the crazy part. I'm talking about God, I'm talking about certain things, he just don't know anything, like, certain things. He don't know that's a view.
This is funny. I don't think we expected Future to know anything but music, so we kind of got to have the degree of respect where it's like, hey, he focuses on is what he can control, which is making great music, and everything else can be in shambles. Granted, he's also managed to focus on his health because he's in mid-40s and he's still, we haven't seen a major health complication for the Future. So he's healthy, lived quite long, in rap terms, right? Like a lot of people have died at his age. And he's making good music. We don't expect Future to have insight on anything else. And until recently, people thought Young Thug was the same because Young Thug was just portrayed down for say less than necessary. And now we've heard him talk more than we've heard him talk in the past 10 years.
When I talk about stuff, he just like, I don't hear. So if people around, he try to ignore it. People around, he'll walk off his road. Like he can do other miscellaneous stuff when people be around him. Like he talking about stuff, he just feel like maybe that's trying to talk about it. But I ain't talking about those things like way. Put him down. I'm giving him game. Yeah, but you know, maybe like this. He think this one. He like talk about. He'll make like he's taking around and talking stuff like that. So I just talk about. I
this can be repaired. If this was just private, it is what it is. And Future and Thug have always been at least cordial. We don't expect them to be playing money. That's really that's just listeners.
Right. And you have to be like, oh yeah, that's down.
Cause I know for sure y'all niggas been this, and y'all niggas just didn't tell me, cause just like
like today before you.
That, right?
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're not talking about nothing for the rest of this. And I think Future was just trying to handle the situation, keep the peace. I think he was doing as little as possible to appease Young Thug, and enough to where he's like, yo, at least I'm showing love and I'm showing support. He was always screaming out, free Thug. And Young Thug will say, man, that's easy, you could do that. But hey, Young Thug was screaming out, free Grew Up, free Gucci. And then we have him on calls saying because Gucci decided to better his life, now he's not cool anymore, or he's lame, or whatever. He's not the same since he got out. Meanwhile, Young Thug got out, and he might be worse than when he went in, although probably he's not calling hits like he was back then. But that's a topic to cover for the interview. I'm going on too long at this point. I don't know if they can be cool, because this goes back to the fans. Fans see Future as like, oh, this cool, chill guy, that's player. So him getting disrespected like this in public, initially it wasn't in public, but now that it is public, how does he look kicking it with Young Thug without even receiving an apology? And I think part of the reason why Young Thug isn't doling out an apology to Future is because he sees it as, yo, I talked to you behind the scenes, and I told you, like, this behavior that you're doing is fake. We haven't been kicking it in a while. When chicks are around, you're moving a little bit weird. So why would I apologize to you in public when I kind of told you this in private? You're just hearing out more details of it. So this is a situation where I think they might just stay their separate ways, and then 21 Savage is in the middle of it again. 21 Savage just finds himself in the middle of damn near everything. Found himself in the middle of Meek Mill versus, who was it? Academics. Finds himself in the middle of Thug versus Future. Finds himself in the middle of Drake versus Kendrick Lamar. Finds himself in the middle of Drake and J. Cole, to a degree. J. Cole and Kendrick, too. He just finds himself in the middle of everything, which you gotta respect. The guy kind of just ducks it off. Also found himself in the middle of Gunna and Young Thug, and found himself in the middle of, who was it? Was it Baby? No, him and Baby had static. There's another situation. Yeah, found himself in the middle of Durk and Young Thug as well, because he's cool with Durk. And Young Thug just put out these statements. But 21 Savage, he just stays out the way. He doesn't talk about any of this stuff. He doesn't need to do interviews, and he doesn't even need to tour. So the guy makes enough money off of music. This isn't about 21 Savage. So yeah, I'm going to catch y'all on the next one.
Ever since he came into the game, 50 Cent has been terrorizing the industry. Whether he was talking about which famous rappers he liked to rob on his early tracks, or these days when he takes delight in the downfall of others, Curtis Jackson has always been a problem. And a lot of people knew it. That's why when he first started popping off, people like Jay-Z told their crews that they would have to come harder than ever to keep up. From those early days onwards, 50 has had a reign of terror like few hip-hop artists before or since. And today, we're going to break down his fellow artists who felt his wrath. It's your boy Luesta, and these are the rappers who were destroyed by 50 Cent. And when it comes to those who face some serious uphill battles after tangling with the G-Unit leader, there's one man who has regularly stood out as the biggest victim of all, and he goes by the name of Ja Rule. Back in the era before 50 rose from Jamaica Queens drug pusher to Dr. Dre and Eminem co-signed MC, Ja Rule was basically at the pinnacle of the game. At the height of his career, Ja couldn't release an album that didn't promptly hit the top spot of the charts. Meanwhile, his string of radio-friendly singles like Always on Time, Put It On Me, and Between Me and You meant that he was really a force to be reckoned with on the singles chart. At one point, he was even set to join a supergroup with Jay-Z and DMX, until it all fell apart when their egos collided. But what he and the team at Irv Gotti's renowned Murder Inc. label didn't expect was that a local rapper from New York was not only about to come and knock him off his perch as one of the city's most respected and commercially viable MCs, but would also play a role in completely destroying his career. The bad blood between Ja and 50 dates back to 1999, shortly after men linked to infamous crime lord Kenneth Supreme McGriff were alleged to have shot at 50. He went on the warpath against anyone with ties to him. Among those was none other than Irv Gotti and, by extension, Ja Rule. However, it wasn't one-way traffic, as the bad blood extended to the fact that 50 was friends with someone who had stuck up Ja for some loot at one point.
A friend of mine's robbed Ja, and when I'm in a club, I see the nigga, I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, so he see me kicking it with the nigga that robbed him, and he feel like, oh shit, I shouldn't speak to this dude, because I know the kid robbed him, but I know this kid, I grew up with him.
The way 50 tells it, Ja and Irv were just posers, and he had no problem questioning his street credibility.
I'll tell you personally, the Murder Inc., the people that you see, like Irv, Ja, the people that are involved in the business aspect, are just like these niggas don't got no hood in them.
Yet in Ja's version of events, things went very differently, with 50 catching a beating during this encounter.
The talk got heated because I got mad and started screaming at him and telling him that, he was up to this, that, and the third, and some swings at me. You know what I'm saying? He taught me a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But I did it and hit him with the back palm. So
I dipped it.
and I started screaming at him and telling him that, he was up to this, that, and the third, and some swings at me. You know what I'm saying? He taught me a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But I did it and hit him with the back palm. So now we start tussling. We tussling. Now my niggas is there. He got a few niggas with him there. Me and my niggas proceed to whoop his ass while his niggas did nothing. They sat back and watched the whole shit.
As 50 began to send disses Ja's way during his fabled mixtape run prior to signing to Shady and Aftermath, Rule refused to really respond to wax. Instead, he chose to enlist a lesser Murder Inc. artist to make it physical, and perhaps deter 50 from dissing him any further. On one fateful night, Irv and Black Child confronted him at the Hit Factory, where Black Child stabbed 50.
Not because it was like 10 niggas getting it on in the dark. One of these niggas was sitting like, yo, where the gat at? Like, I just started hating niggas. Fine. Because I first thing kicked in my mind, if niggas get to the gat, one of us is dead. If I felt the gat was in the area, niggas was reaching for it. You know what I mean? And I wasn't letting nobody get to their gun and pop me. You know what I mean? So I started poking niggas straight up and down. And that's the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so I'll be gone.
This led to 50 requiring stitches, but rather than focus on his ill will towards Ja, Curtis Jackson chose to focus on advancing his career. Soon, he was signed to Eminem, Dre, and Interscope. This meant that as Ja's firepower was running low, 50 came with a whole artillery behind him. Now that he was aligned with M, Ja, whose label was facing a federal investigation by the feds at that time, now deemed 50 a worthy target to beef with on wax. And unfortunately, the turning point came when he dissed Eminem's daughter, spitting, "Your mother's a crackhead, and Kim is a known."
I know that's not too far.
So what is Haley gonna be when she grows up? After initially shelving the beef as to not garner a negative dissed Eminem's daughter, spitting, "Your mother's a crackhead, and Kim is a known slut." So what is Haley gonna be when she grows up? After initially shelving the beef as to not garner a negative reputation, this gave 50 the green light to eviscerate Ja on his boss's behalf, and he didn't hesitate.
When I left that meeting, I didn't want him to feel like he brought a problem, so I wouldn't say anything about Ja Rule. I kept it, I didn't say one
How
thing.
long did the meeting last?
It was like, when I met him, the first night I met him, he had an event. There was the Marshall Mathers LP just came out the first week, sold 1.7 million records. And he was so excited about me that I'm looking like, you serious? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo. And by the time I got back, and I would never say anything about John until the first time I said something about him. John made a mistake and said something about Haley. When he said something about Haley, they thought that they made some sort of kind of connection when they were getting high or something like that. And I'm like, what the f***? They don't think like this. Like it was, and I'm like, it was a Friday evening. Him didn't record that Friday. I recorded that Friday, that Saturday, that Sunday. He came back. I had a full CD, Automatic Gunfire. It was my whole mixtape, Automatic Gunfire, was done Monday morning. He was listening. He was going, yo, when did y'all get a chance to? All this shit was this weekend. I was dying to do that. I just didn't want him to feel like he brought a problem because I know he didn't understand the severity of who I am.
With tracks like Haley's Revenge and others, 50 G Unit and the Shady Crew set out to destroy Ja, and it was a smear campaign that succeeded, because where he was previously at the top of the game, 50 had positioned both himself and his nemesis in such a way that Murder Inc. just weren't cool anymore. Or, in some people's opinions, 50 capitalized on the sentiment that was already out there and just drilled it home. 50 had a machine behind him, and it wasn't a hip-hop feud, but a pop feud. Everyone wanted to hate on Ja, and 50 had the platform via radio skits and web outlets going at Ja 24/7. I remember serious hip-hop heads were already getting tired of Ja, and his collabs with singers and his awful singing on hooks before 50 hit the scene. Plus, there was a feeling that Ja was playing a role, whereas 50 undoubtedly was from the streets and was hard as fuck. In hindsight, Irv and Ja know that they were just outgunned and outmuscled by a rapper with momentum and a superior backing. With that, he had the power to diminish their credibility.
It was orchestrated very well. He was a part of the juggernauts at that moment. Eminem, Dre. They were very, very big in what they were doing as well. So as we were big over on our side, they were also big on our side, on their side. There was a lot of things that were falling apart for us. It was easy for him to get people to turn on. And there was things that were behind the scenes that y'all don't see that also made us seem more irrelevant. You know, like we couldn't go to award shows.
Crazily, Irv can even remember the moment that they knew they were cooked. And it was when 50's first smash single landed, giving him all major commercial push needed to crush them.
Here comes Flex at 7 o'clock. I got the new. So he said, all right, let's listen. Let's listen to it. Dun, dun. Oh God, it's fucking Dre, right? So boom. So then, but wait a minute, you're bringing it back. So I'm like, all right, the beat is nuts. He may have one, but let's see if he connected the dots lyrically. I turned to Rule and everyone in the office, and I said, yo, buckle up. We have a major problem.
In the aftermath, Ja's career was never the same, with tracks that would have once tore clubs up being drowned out by G-Unit supporters. Looking back, it's obvious that it's still hard for Ja to take.
I just think that was a weird moment in time. You know, it was really weird. Especially saying now, new guy comes out, I've been killing it for 3 hours now or whatever. You know what I'm saying? On every station, on everything, fucking commercials, just that, you know, people get tired of it. And I think when he came out and attacked, you know, people ran with him. He was a new guy. He was with Juggernaut in the store. Those guys, Jimmy, the whole team over there. You know, so there was a lot going on. There was a lot of behind the scenes that people don't know about too.
That said, he feels that 50 is given more credit for the fall-off than he deserves, and that it was the federal indictment that Murder Inc. was facing which really slowed their roll.
Luckily, he just didn't shit thought out the story. It was investigated by feds. It's not the story because I don't know if many people have been investigated or indicted by the feds, but they feel well about they shut down. They shut down everything. So they like to credit homeboy judge. Nigga, please stop. You know what I'm saying? We've seen 100 million rappers You know what I'm saying? No one man shuts down what really hurt us was the fans.
Still, even with Job basically vanquished by now, he has still continued to kick him when he's down ever since. Infamously, he even bought 200 front row seats at his Mortal Enemies show just to ensure that the place looked empty. In the story of John 50, we see why it's not a good idea to make an enemy out of him. But sometimes, even being 50's close friend and collaborator isn't enough to escape the more spiteful side of him. No one exemplifies this better than the members of G-Unit. Once seen as his soldiers, Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, and Tony Yayo are men that are synonymous with the early stages of 50's career. After signing his own deal, they found themselves on his G-Unit label, where they were not only provided a commercial platform, but spent time enhancing their writing abilities to take them from just MCs to hip-hop hitmakers.
I write in 4-bar pieces, right? And my first 4 is going to usually be aggressive, right? So it's going to be a line in that first 4. Yeah. Second 4 will be some type of breakdown. You know, I might get bouncy with it, right? The next 4 is going to be a little melodic G-code, and that's what I got from 50. Because I was always bar heavy. The outros, the bridges, all of these things I learned from watching him record, and they were cheat codes because if I had the illest 16, he would steal the show. I didn't have that.
Across Lloyd Banks' Hunger for More, Young Bucks' Straight Out of Cashville, the group project Beg for Mercy, and Tony Yayo's Thoughts of a Predicate Felon, there was a period where the crew could do no wrong. They even landed endorsement deals, guest starred in 50's video game, and overall became household names during their time in G-Unit. But eventually, 50 would grow embittered towards these men that he had given so much to, and over time, it would all go wrong. Arguably, they should have seen the warning signs when the game briefly joined their crew. To hear 50 tell it, he was just as instrumental to Games' career as Banks or Yayo's.
I went to meet Jimmy. Jimmy was like, he played these games right now. Game was in the studio with Dre for over a year. He said, yo, what you think about it? I said, no, he can rap. I said, he's a great rapper. He's just not a good songwriter. If you fix this, I'm sure that everything is good between you and Dre. I only worked with Game for 4 days. The 4 days that I worked with Game, I muted my vocal, right? On a documentary special, High End, Church with Thugs, Hated to Love It. When he rocked on it, he did it. He nailed the shit.
Following his deal with Iveen, Game spent a brief, fleeting moment on G-Unit. But by the time that he was promoting his debut album, The Documentary, the wheels were already falling off. Then, it all came to a head when 50 revealed on Hot 97 that the Game was kicked out of the crew, inciting a full confrontation that resulted in gunfire outside of the studio. Suddenly, Interscope, Dr. Dre, and Jimmy Iovine had choices to make, and unsurprisingly, they sided with their cash cow.
Because he financially and infrastructurally, he had to take sides with who Jimmy took sides with, which was 50. Well, it made sense because that's where the bulk of the money was being made. And so at that point, you didn't want to piss 50 off because he was the breadwinner. So yeah, everybody chose sides, but I did the doctor's advocate, and no one thought it was coming out.
With Game promptly kicked out of the crew without a second thought, it should have shown the rest of G-Unit how easily he could dispose of those who stepped out of line. But over time, their bonds went progressively sour too, with 50 publicly bashing them as though they squandered everything he afforded to them.
They're like my little brothers.
And you're not feeling them right now?
I like for them to work to sustain their interest in the public. Tony did it. If he can do that, then it's dead. New 50 Cent, and then you heard these other guys' voices that you don't know from nowhere. They riding the wave. They don't know what it's like to have to grind. So I'm supposed to kill them now. I'm supposed to hurt them for not following instructions in front of people. I actually run things the way we run things at that point. They had Reebok deals and then forgot to wear the shoes. So I stopped paying them.
Young Buck claimed that he was stiffed on money prior to being kicked out of the crew in 2008.
I have to find out from somebody that's around me, like, yo, bro, 50's on the radio up here, kicking you out the crew. I'm like, what? Y'all crazy. Everything's all good. I never know that it was that crazy. So soon he kicked me out. I'm like, what the fuck is this about? And then he started to say, oh, because I'm cool with Game, or those different things started to happen. Like, I'm cool with the enemies of him, or I've rocked with the enemies of him. And it wasn't that. It was that I'm active, so I would run into a few of these individuals, the Jim Jones, the Dipset individuals, the Jada Kisses when we had these beefs, or whatever.
Left with $300,000 in tax debts, he was left to sit on the shelf until the Repo Men literally came to his house. Years later, an attempt to reunite fell apart due to the same lingering issues, with Buck still insisting he never got what he deserved.
6 months into the situation, probably of getting back together, and out of nowhere, this interview comes out. It was one of those interviews where prior to us getting back together, I had spoke on me not receiving any publishing or royalty check in my career, bro. Everything I done, it's been off shows. At the time, he reacted to that so up that Sha Money was like, bro, 50's tripping out over this. And I'm like, Sha, how can I fix it? It's the truth. I ain't never seen a royalty check, but I never seen those. 50 starts grabbing that $10 million line, even holds on to it today.
By the mid-2010s, 50 was ruthless when it came to discussing his former clique members, even referring to them as spoiled milk. In his mind, he expected them to make more of the opportunities they were handed.
The record company's job is not to build your momentum. Look with Jay-Z. When Jay-Z signed a guy, you don't see him around that person at all until the guy high enough to function without Jay-Z. And then he may use that momentum to keep himself. I brought these guys from the very beginning, so they don't even know what it's like to grind.
In that case, like, how does Yayo eat now? Because he can't do it now without you.
He does it the way a solo artist eats on a record. He get out there, he don't have a rhythm because he hasn't been on an actual tour on his own. I wanted them to go be Kanye West. I wanted them to go be Lil Wayne, Cash Money.
Even if 50 was maybe trying to incentivize them to get after it and push themselves towards greatness, this is something that Yayo just couldn't abide by. As much bullets I took for G-Unit, he tweeted in response. My mom's crib got shot up. Almost my sister's knees. Now I'm compared to milk. I made that brand. Since breaking up for the last time in 2015, Lloyd has largely distanced himself from 50, with Buck having to buy his masters out from under his former label boss. However, Tony Yayo has remained by his side, showing eternal gratitude for what 50 sent his way, even when it came with the occasional insult.
At the end of the day, look, 50 is my brother, Banks is my brother. I grew up with them. I love them to death. Whatever which way, even if I wasn't talking to 50, I'm authentic. People don't gotta like me, because they always said, everybody ain't gonna like me on lunch. Wise man once told me that. If 50 don't gotta talk to me tomorrow, Banks don't gotta go talk to me tomorrow. You ain't gonna see me with they ops. You ain't gonna see me with this guy. That's not what I do.
Although it seems like he'll always have Yayo as a hype man for as long as he's performing, he's still shooting at Buck and Banks to the point that he couldn't even savor the success of his final lap tour without getting a little jab in their comparative lack of relevance. Considering that these men were once in his inner circle, it's obvious that 50 can hold a grudge when he wants to. So it's kind of shocking that in his beef with this ex-rapper, he actually chose to be the bigger person. In the early 2000s, 50 had smoke for anyone who was cool with Murder Inc. As a result, his animosity towards Fat Joe kicked off when he chose to stand shoulder to shoulder with Ja Rule on the track New York. A decision which, given that 50 was already becoming a monster at the time, people close to Joey Crack asked him not to do.
Fast forward, Ja Rule, by the way, everybody, has 17 #1 hits. He was Drake before Drake. And so he gets into the beef with 50 Cent. And so now everybody, and I say everybody, start walking away from Ja. You know, that's how Ja Rule was. And when he caught that smoke, nobody stand next to him. And that because 50 Cent was like some we never seen in America. It was a typhoon. So everybody that's cool with us, other rappers, is like, yo, get away from that boy. Chill. Like, don't be next to him. And I was like, y'all talking. I don't want the war with murderers, not rappers.
With 50 getting at him on tracks like Hollow Through Him and I'm On Some Shit, among others, Fat Joe was also depicted in the Piggy Bank video as another enemy that Curtis had dispatched. Still, Joe, who released diss tracks of his own, refused to back down even when others were cowering in fear.
The only one fighting 50 back, man. What's good with that, man? I'm trying to suck my...
And soon, the whole thing spilled out of New York and into the view of the whole world when they were throwing shots at each other during the 2005 VMAs.
I like to tell the people who I feel so safe tonight when I was released protection courtesy of G-Unit. And the winner is Missy Elliott beats Missy Elliott for the best.
Things carried on like this, with Fat Joe later reflecting on how hard 50 was going and the way that it got to him.
Some rappers think they war ready and they beef ready till they step into the beef, and then they get somebody coming at them crazy. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what it's like to have beef with 50? 50 Cent is incredible with beef, not just musically, but every day he was going viral. Yo, your mother, your wife. I'm like, oh my God, don't get beef with 50 Cent.
that, and you can't have thick skin. You won't really look good.
Because even once the smoke cleared on the whole jaw thing, he was still trolling him for years afterwards.
It sucks, man. As I said, I just want to thank everybody showing their support. All the people on message with the yesterday, listened to Fat Joe's record.
Oh my god.
Not to listen to his music. Some people didn't
I
listen.
have It is.
That's what happened.
With everything that occurred, the Terror Squad leader felt that his issues with 50 could never be resolved. But in 2012, the problem was suddenly squashed during a BET Awards performance for the late Chris Lighty. And amazingly, it was 50 who made the first move.
When Chris Lighty died, I went to the funeral, so I show up. And 50 Cent is in there, he's in the other side. You know, I don't see Mella was there, Ice-T. And I leave. When I leave, my phone rings, Stephen Hill from BET. And he's like, yo, we're doing a tribute to Chris Lighty on the BET Awards. I perform laid back, and then 50 Cent comes out. And he ends up right by where I'm at. And when the music stops, he puts his hands up, and he says, peace, Chris Lighty. Chris Lighty wanted peace. So I'm looking at him, I'm like, peace? Now all I'm seeing is all the shit this guy done said about me. Seconds, I was like, yo, this dude is fucking amazing. And so when I shook his hand, I said, peace? He said, peace, man. Terror Squad, G, Chris Light, and that was it.
Now, these two count one another as friends, which is crazy when you think about how much smoke they once had for each other. With one feature on New York, Fat Joe bought himself years of back and forths with 50. But if you know that song, you'll know that he wasn't the only one on that track. And because of it, he was beefing with 50 alongside the only MC that truly garnered his respect. Hailing from Yonkers and aligned with Rough Riders as well as D-Block, Jadakiss was one of third of the most respected clique in New York hip-hop in the Lux. Alongside Styles P and Sheek Louch, they carved a gritty, quick-witted path through the rap game that bought them almost universal love. Well, except for in the eyes of 50. Initially, it was all good between 50 and Jada, as even at his most confrontational, it seemed like he admired Kiss and the crew.
I think 50 was really a fan, mutual fan, because we was rocking with him, rooting for him, always rooting for him. The dog, his story is one of the greatest stories. They said on one of his best songs, stacked in all of the niggas, they come from Yonkers. That already, like, that must have been, speaking about how you was talking about Yonkers earlier, a nigga from Queens doing that at the top of his game, that must have been crazy. That's what I'm saying. That's the precedent. And we knew that he really meant that.
But that all changed when Jada popped up in New York. And suddenly, he was getting dissed on Piggy Bank from 50's sophomore album, The Massacre, with 50 spitting, Jada, don't fuck with me if you want to eat. This all your little ass like Jay did Mobb Deep. Yeah, in New York, they like your vocals, but that's only in New York, dog. Yo ass is a local. Suddenly dissed by a man who'd previously given him props, Kiss felt that him getting on New York was misinterpreted.
You and Joe hopping on the New York record with John. That was a good segue to try to see those to his enemy. It was an excuse. Yeah, we gave him an excuse.
He was then asked if he thought or cared how 50 would feel while making the song. I liked the song. It was a good song. It was representing New York. I didn't have to answer anybody. I didn't think the song made it look like I was partnering up with Jaw for his beef. But even if he felt that his intentions were completely skewed by 50, he didn't spend much time trying to apologize. Instead, he eviscerated 50's character on Problem Child and Checkmate, among others, coming at him on grounds of getting shot and not shooting back, living in Connecticut, and even leveling snitch allegations against him. But rather than get in his feelings about the whole thing, Jada believed that it benefited everyone in a way that other beefs don't.
I made a lot of money off the 50, you know what I mean? This one, the times had changed, it was a different era, you know what I mean? Checkmate actually charted on billboards, you know what I mean? So that was it. It's like, yo, I was great. Yeah, I was making on those tours that, I went to see Jimmy. Jimmy made sure I was good. Telling him, Jim, listen to me. If your 50 thing was good for me, I appreciated that more than the see. The 5th thing was beautiful. Because for me, he was selling that next album. He needed, you know what I mean?
And once again, it was 50 that was the man who decided to bring it to a close. In fact, they squashed it in person.
He came through one day, called through. He came through by himself. We sat down, kicked it for a few hours. Me, him, and P. She wasn't there. She didn't come to the studio that day. But me and P, updated him. Everything was love. We sat there, kicked it. He actually had a song for me and a song for P. It wasn't even that serious. The people kind of blew it up more than it was. I mean, I think he was using it as a marketing tool for that album. Cause after the,
Since then, it's been nothing but harmony between them, and lately, 50 has been re-examining this feud. As though he still believes he came out on top, 50 has said that the closest he came to tasting defeat was while sparring with Jadakiss.
Is there any battle that you felt like you've lost or wasn't as victorious?
No.
Yeah.
I've had the artists have things moment. They did something and I was like, oh, that was dope.
Right. What are something? Yeah. So what did you see that you were like, oh yeah, that was a good one right there?
In between time, like the Jadakiss, he had put out some things
on you.
Yeah, while we was like, and you could really rap. Like,
Yeah.
certain part of the bit, even if the format didn't put it in a song to make it feel like it's a problem.
A valid opinion, but maybe there's an element of deception in there. In fact, this might be the solitary example on this list where it could be argued that he was the victim here. Saying he never lost a battle is nothing short of delusion. Jadakiss' styles smoked him. Hip-hop warfare is a complex art, and sometimes the winners and losers aren't exactly crystal clear. Because in one case, 50 had to endure a hit to his pockets purely to destroy an enemy with a past that he wanted to stay hidden. By the time Rick Ross emerged on the scene with his debut, Port of Miami, 50 Cent had already been a superstar for years. But as often happens, a new up-and-comer tries to target a mainstay in the industry to try and get a boost in credibility. And after a chance meeting at the 2008 BET Awards, Rose took his opportunity. He said to start wait to pay your rent. Curtis Jackson, baby mama. I ain't looking for a cent. Burn the house down. You gotta buy another. And don't forget the gas can. Jealous, stupid motherfucker. In case that the incident occurred, 50 and Shaniqua were engaged in an intense custody battle over their son Marquise, as well as the house that went ablaze. Naturally, 50 wasn't going to take this and just move on. Instead, he dropped diss tracks like Officer Ricky and Warning Shot that would change hip-hop's perception of Rose. While it's now common knowledge that the man who named himself after a real drug kingpin has a past in law enforcement, this wasn't necessarily the case to begin with. But 50 was about to bring it to the world's attention.
Well, I can already see from here, from where I'm at, this nigga's a total fraud. You're gonna really understand how resourceful I am, and you're gonna see what happens when someone comes from the environment and absorbs all of the new information. Okay, oh shit, Ricky's friends outside. You heard him? Did they go? Ricky said he got a $2 million.
From that day on and ever since, 50, who even created cartoons about Rose being a correctional officer, ensured that it would come up in interviews ever since.
So our first chance to talk about this. Right. Rick Ross, where did the picture come from? Was Rick Ross CEO? Was that created or is that a real picture?
The boss that did it all to get money. And what you gotta understand is, if on the surface, it wasn't because, and people feel like I didn't address him, it wasn't because of my selfish reasons. It may go to what was going on, who was involved, and what we did was we got with these people, and we followed through my life so people could understand.
As if slandering him like that wasn't diabolical enough, he interviewed his ex Tia before hanging out with Rick Ross's kid while hanging out in Vegas with Tia and Floyd Mayweather. And in 2010, 50 leaked a mixtape of Rose's baby mama online, which featured 50 providing commentary as his infamous Pimpin' Curly character. Although it didn't happen immediately, the pressure applied by 50 meant that Rick was eventually going to have to concede that he was truly a CO, and eventually broached it in 2014 with the bars, "That's why I had to play my part. That wasn't me. It was just a job." For the first time in his career, Ross had finally admitted to the worst-kept secret in hip-hop that 50 had spent over 5 years trying to expose. And in interviews, he eventually came clean.
Most definitely refer to me being a CEO. I wouldn't change nothing, so, because to me it's just about, who Rose is. It's about me. When anywhere I go and I step in the room, I put it down, people know it's authentic right here. They know it's real. So it was nothing that I was personally threatened with. It was just, I was just ready to move on.
Okay.
Let's go get this money. And right now, to feed my family, I'll do it again.
As much as this had an irreparable impact inflicted on Rosé's credibility, how hard he went in the beef inflicted damage on 50 too. In 2015, 50 was ordered to pay $5 million to Estonia Leviston for the leaking of her mixtape. This led him to file for bankruptcy, and as a result, 50 routinely tried to countersue and claimed that Ross was responsible for leaking the tape. Today, the issues between them have never truly been resolved, and by the looks of it, Rosé is still a little salty about it.
And something else I said that I thought was actually kind of cute. Charlamagne referred to 50 Cent as a diabolical genius. And me, thinking the way I think of Charlamagne, he would know better than that. A diabolical genius doesn't file foreclosure, doesn't file bankruptcy, it's not a diabolical genius, a diabolical genius. So my next generation of young bosses, they buying Delta, they buying the miners, they making big boy moves. Cracking jokes when somebody gonna make you diabolical.
Meanwhile, 50 will take opportunities to clown Ross when they arise, such as the fact when he and Meek Mill's joint album flopped.
We sold 31,000, 9 CDs. I should talk to you.
But if you think how he treated Rosé is disdainful, then it's nothing compared to the campaign he's been waging against Diddy long before anyone else had this level of grievance with him. By the time that 50 rose from rising star to serious prospect in hip-hop, Diddy had already been a mogul for over a decade. And at one time, he even joined the arms race to sign Curtis. But even though he opted for Aftermath and Shady instead, it wasn't a cause for any beef between them. In fact, to begin with, they were initially relatively friendly.
Get your hand out of my pocket, man. Get your hand out of my pocket. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing on the channel. Get your hand out of my pocket, man. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I see, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing, man. I see what you're doing. No, look at me, man. I see what you're doing, man. Yeah, you gonna make me. Okay, I'll tell you right now. When I want to work with Diddy, I'm going to physically put my hands on somebody for the ratings. Because he's not going to outdo me. I'm going to physically, I'm going to go to Central Book. Yeah, I'm used to it. I know what it is. Just get your hand on my, get off my channel, boy.
But as 50 accrued his own level of power and influence, he began to start taking subtle shots at Diddy. And by 2006, he declared that Puff had something to do with the death of his friend and former leading artist, the Notorious B.I.G.'s death on The Bomb, spitting, "Who shot Biggie Smalls? We don't get him. They're gonna kill us all. Man, Puffy know who hit that dude." But over time, things changed in the sense that they got worse. And eventually, he began to make comments about his sexuality.
When you continuously call Puff gay, does that affect your relationships in Hollywood?
I didn't call him gay. I said,
Let me read this. Sorry I can no longer help you guys. Soon you will all be gay and happy. You are all now left under leadership of Puffy Daddy.
According to 50, it all started when Puff made some advances towards him that he didn't appreciate.
He said something to me one time, a long time ago, and Chris Knighton's wedding. He told me to take me shopping. I looked at him like, what you just say? Let me move, man, before I do something. You're going to make me mess up the wedding.
Oh, that's a nice gesture.
Let me get out. No, dude, you take me there. God says so.
When you look back, 50 was basically the original whistleblower when it came to Diddy. In fact, he seemed to know a lot about Puff long before others had caught on. He even hinted at Diddy spiking others well before anyone else did.
I didn't do nothing Puffy did. It's so excitement. It's so much excitement that there was no reason for me to put something in our drink. I need you to remember.
While he routinely made jokes about what Diddy was really like behind the scenes, it wasn't necessarily a concern for others that led 50 to seek to expose Puff. Instead, it was the meddling in others' business that was the real problem.
Is it because of the liquor situation? Because to be honest, it's the situation he's in now. It's kind of like, you fell back on it. Was this all over the liquor, or you just said?
Well, most of that was motivation of that was competing, right? For with brands, but and they was ahead of me, right? Because he had been working on Ciroc and stuff like that, and then integrating it into our culture. Those different things with different people, right, connected to it. So yeah, that's what that was. But when you look at, he would do a lot of foul shit, like behind the scenes. He would do some foul shit, like. Doing things with people I done business with, that he done business with, he would say shit that he said that to you. Like, yeah, so alright. You know what I'm saying?
Despite what his intentions were, 50 is not feeling vindicated by everything Puff has now been exposed as, and even claimed that he will be spearheading a documentary entitled Did He Do It? But above all, he's just happy that people no longer think he's insane for trying to inform the world of what the Bad Boy CEO was really like.
What does it feel like all these years you've been the only one calling this out?
I look like I've been the crazy guy for a long time.
They said that's a hater. They said crazy.
Yeah, and now everybody's complaining. My ass is hurting. It's all this shit. It's just
50 killing jokes about it.
No, it's going for you, bro. All I'm saying is, it's going for you. You see it now. All of these good people who first tapped, they weren't compelling.
Also been going out of his way to try and expose the true character of one of hip-hop's biggest successes. In a lot of ways, the collab stories of Jay-Z and Sam Weir, raised in Queens and Brooklyn respectively, both of them began hustling from a young age, seeing no shortage of violence. And to begin with, it seemed like they could coexist until they started to gain traction. Even when Jay got mentioned on 50's infamous track, How to Rob, which is literally about them picking up the biggest artists in hip-hop for their match, both took it in good humor, but he made no secret of the fact that it couldn't go unpunished. So that was very exciting. So on stage, Jay's like,
God, I love that reference you got. I love that reference you got.
Since he said, it's like, shit, I gotta get you.
And like that, it was good. I ain't gonna admit, right then, so
I'm not really now iconic this line of the song that goes like this. This was something that 50 clearly respected, and when folks relate the story, he did it along the same lines and with no real anger about what went down.
something on the first one. 50 Cent made a video on the side of the stage. I can't really know. Yeah, I like that record. It was hot. But you want that screen. That was the conversation. No doubt. Who you know? I'm about it down.
Well, once they were in direct competition, little shots started to be taken from the press. But when they get on appearing on the remix to I Get Me, it would be immature that we can overdo the scarier than
I think you could have done it. That was 50 Cent. No one's scared of 50 Cent. No, this real big one. That wouldn't be clear. No one's scared of 50 Cent. So I just think that that's what he believed. I think this is appropriate. I'm not ready for 13 Grammy. That's why I made a statement about Taylor Swift. Like I said, if I was actually up there, that even take my phone. And Jay-Z was a touch. Kanye would not take a trouble. Not the Jay-Z. They were on the we have like that. All of these things are happening because they're comfortable with it. His presentation is becoming more approachable. But you couldn't get it. Crazy. And but Lil Mama would understand that ain't a cool space for you to just be walking up to. Even if you appreciate Jay-Z and you enjoy it, you don't just walk on the middle of the man's stage. You said, you know what I mean? Not at a watch it.
Over time, 50 has kept this narrative up, maintaining that Jay, who you saw in the early days of his career, and the man he is today are incompatible with each other.
He created this real scene. It wouldn't have been like that if he actually dealt with this issues himself. See, he's a woman. He was somebody in front of him. And Jada came from Baby in front of him. And Baby went back and forth with Jada. And Cam came from what you like. And they went back and forth. And he just didn't compete. I think they still have this.
And over the years, it's only gotten more.
That's the crazy stuff. That was so big bang. We going to go big bang. So about the past. It's look like a big bang.
But for 50, he believes that his takedown from Jay's character of valid, Jay has tried to restrict his in the business world, he believes Jay operates in a pretty shady way.
And Jay's it's really just this is actual art, but actually trying to block something. This is business thing. It's weird. It's like you should. It's one thing that there's like people talking about each other with things, but there's behind the scenes business deals that a guys getting involved on the side, and it's not like you can go public and they tried to stop it. This deal.
said that 50, I mean, Jay hated on people like he did. And that kind of did. Let's get big.
And according to the Jay tried to pass the buck when it came to the whole thing, rather than owning up some support, trying to put it down.
But I think in that third game, say because you see that I got 11 professional sports games that but ain't no official champagne money on it. And that's what they did. I understand. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. There was this whiskey was on the program. And I'm looking at the show.
After all that's happened since the Super Bowl, it's no surprise that 50 would take any opportunity to apply pressure to Jay's neck. So when Hove's longtime ally Diddy started to gain attention for all the wrong reasons, it was no surprise that 50 was right there to point out that Hove seemed to be laying low and staying out of sight of the public.
When's Jay-Z coming back? In a long time. When's Jay-Z coming back anywhere? We waiting for him to come a lot of places. I want him to come on the show. No brunch, no lunch, no dinner. It's hot out here, man. It's hot out here. You gonna sit there?
Then, once the lawsuit against Hove landed, 50 has basically been having a field day on IG. Okay, I don't know what's going on, but are we still gonna have the Super Bowl? Asking for a friend. Jay said I R-worded a kid. Everybody get dressed. We're going to see Mufasa. LOL. Rather than shoot a fellow black man in business some bail, 50 has been reveling in his downfall and even broke down his statement by claiming it was written by an attorney rather than Hove himself.
The statement is something from, you can tell it was written by a lawyer. There's a point where it kind of gets aggressive. Like it says, like, you're going to find out how I handle this. And that's an attorney want to be combative with another attorney. That's not like the publicist would say this thing.
I saw this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this is on your, yeah, this is on, yeah, it says, I don't know what's going on, but are we still going to have the Super Bowl? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah, I'm asking for kids. I'm just trying to figure out if we're still doing it. They will fall back. Like the NFL, they won't necessarily be associated.
Why do you not insert yourself, but you're on top of every topic, right?
I'm just watching. I'm participating. I'm being part of the culture. I'm just telling my opinion.
While Jay has yet to respond, it's become clear once again that 50 is not a man you want to cross. Because if you do, it might just lead to irreparable damage to your reputation. But that said, messing with Jay might be hazardous to more than your career. And to find out about that, just check out my video on Hove's terrifying history of violence. There's some pretty crazy stuff on there. But as always, my name is Luesta, and I want to thank y'all for watching today's video. And until next time, my friends.
Peace.
Drake has always been known to get in his feelings from time to time. It was the source of millions of memes during the early part of his career, and has always been seen as part of his identity. But now, it seems that the emotional rawness is mutating into something darker, and in the wake of his defeat in the beef with Kendrick Lamar, it's got him acting out in ways that might result in permanent damage to both the public's perception of him and his legacy as a whole. Because at this point, he's starting to look like a sore loser. It's your boy Luesta, and this is why Drake has a sensitivity problem. Once Not Like Us was released, Drake seemed intent on downplaying the effects that song's success had on him. He claimed on the Hard Part 6 that the whole exchange was a quote-unquote good exercise. Even as a song that called him a PDF file beat his streaming records for the most streams of a hip-hop track in a single day on Spotify, and the fastest people he thought were his allies like YG and Billie Eilish were dancing to the track, and it was even getting played at elementary school birthday parties. So he tried to take it on his terms, rapping over the BBL Drizzy beat on a Sexy Red track and keeping it lighthearted on social media. At the time, the word from his camp was that he was taking the whole thing in stride. During an appearance on the Flagrant 2 podcast, Lil Yachty saluted Drake for how unbothered he was about it all.
He really didn't think that was really. Straight to the line, I talked to him. That should have been about
it looks like people are seeing through the facade. Just think the response verifies everything Kaden said. Kendrick literally thought of everything in Euphoria. Even down to Yachty being the one having to do the press conference saying Drake was upset. It's actually right. It's Drake is literally very public. And in those actions, it's that Drake isn't just struggling to have it well, but also that his behavior follows a long-standing pattern of pettiness and immaturity that has been evident for years. First things first, let's look at the cancellation of TDE affiliate artists. Which most of the West Coast descended to support. It seems like Drake has decided to take a certain tolerance approach to those involved. It all began with Schoolboy Q, who was signed to the performance of Times One. Just they just canceled my show in Toronto. Canadian police don't want nobody from TDE performing. Note that initially, he put the blame on the cops, but in the very next post, he seemed to suggest that there was maybe someone else pulling the strings, and that it might come from Drake's camp, while at the same time issuing stern warnings that he wasn't to be blamed. The top was just with Wayne and Baby. Party Next Door just had a show at the Palladium. If we wanted to get y'all, we're done. Now, when somebody gets hurt, don't cry. When a fan tried to claim that Schoolboy Q got Rick Ross, referring to a recent event that we'll also discuss later in this video, Schoolboy Q said, I don't think if this happened just once, it might have been a coincidence. But the same thing is about to happen to TDE's male R&B star, Sir. So sorry to my Toronto fans. The show has been canceled. We're working to reschedule for a later date. Once again, Schoolboy Q was in disbelief. Ha 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 ha. Take your ass home, boy. Sing on the bus, it's over. But while it was hard for some to believe that it would be possible for Drake to pull strings like that, a little digging would reveal that the venue which both artists were meant to play is owned by Drake and Live Nation. Although Drizzy fans have attempted to downplay his involvement in history, the venue was promoted as his project from the very beginning in all of the press coverage. In fact, an article from Toronto Life titled A Look Inside History, Drake's much-hyped East End concert venue, provided a behind-the-scenes look, which revealed that the venue throughout the venue, there are high school photos of Drake, tour set lists, signed Godfather posters, and portraits of Aaliyah and Virgil Abloh. With that kind of involvement in the space, and the shows likely being booked before the beef kicked off, it's entirely possible that Drake had a hand in preventing the shows from happening. Plus, it's not exactly hard to believe that a call like this was made from a man who allegedly filed a cease and desist for like that to prevent radio airplay, with possible recipients even surfacing in the form of leaked emails. And let's not forget, this is an individual who also reportedly entered streamer Trainwreck's chat to contest Kendrick's numbers for Not Like Us, as opposed to accepting the song had captivated the masses. Hey, can we take it back to 2022? Can you backdoor Eddie like Spotify backdoored the streams for that one song from that one guy? Said Drake in the chat. All in all, the conduct that he's done in plain sight and what he's allegedly done behind the scenes means that a lot of people feel that everything Yachty said about him taking it to the chin is complete cap. His fans want him to believe that he's unbothered, and they are lying to themselves. He's such a sore loser. We see Kendrick entirely unbothered and off social media, while the other is voting on fan polls and proving Kendrick's lyrics right each day. Left facing the greatest opposition of his life, Drake's team is likely learning that the way he's attempting to cope with the fallout from K-Dot's victory over him isn't doing him any favors. The real issue is that if you look back at Drake's recent behavior, there are growing signs of a volatile temperament. He's been losing his cool more often than not, acting childishly, and at times even embarrassing himself. If you have followed Drake's career closely, you'll know that he hasn't exactly been afraid to engage in petty behavior to mock his doubters and enemies. From giving Meek Mill a participation trophy for Wanna Know at OVO Fest, to dissing Kid Cudi when the man was literally in rehab, Drake has shown that anyone who has the nerve to challenge him might have to face the consequences. But where people like Cudi and Meek actively dissed him, the Drake of the past few years has gotten touchy to the point that he won't even accept criticism. Back when he released his album For All the Dogs, one man who had some reservations about the project was his former enemy Joe Budden. We documented the whole beef in a separate video and explained that since then, the two appeared to squash the beef. However, when Joe simply stated that he wanted to hear a bit more maturity from Drake after hearing the project, it sparked another conflict between them.
This is like he rapping for the children. Yo, dog, I had to look up how old this nigga was when I finished listening to the album. You are 36. Your birthday is in 20 days. I Googled that too. You're 37 years old. Get the fuck away from some of these younger kids and stop fucking these 25-year-olds. I don't want to hear adult Drake rapping for adult people. No, you're not going to hear that. That's my issue with him today. You're not going to hear that. He rapping for the kids, the streams, the Instagram. Yeah, he's rapping for this. No, he ain't really rapping. He ain't really rapping. No. Yeah, I just think I miss the Drake that was rapping, but for the rappers. I miss the Drake that when he dropped, the rappers hit him. Not these little fucking kids. I don't give a fuck about you and Constant that. That's gonna sound like, hey, go find some niggas your fucking age. Hang out with them. Get some of that sauce, nigga. I mean, this kid.
Instead of acknowledging that Joe maybe had a point, Drake responded by flaunting his wealth. You left music behind to do what you're doing in this clip because this is what actually pays your bills. You switched careers because the things that pop into your brain had you broke, living check to check. And the raps you wrote had 450 men showing up to your shows in Dusty and Nietzsche jeans to screw up their face to Mood Music 29 and pretend.
Insiders, people who want to remain anonymous, saying that Kawhi's been a nightmare to deal with. A lot of stuff going on internally, behind the scenes, a lot of demands. They talk about his Uncle Dennis, and kind of all the things going on there. I think a lot of the stuff he's asked for, not necessarily outside of the range of what a superstar of his magnitude should ask for, but Kawhi in the midst of that 3-year, $153 million contract that he signed. I think he's got 2 years left on that. A lot of reports saying that the Clippers want to, or some amongst the organization want to part ways with him. Look to 2027. Yeah. But just saying, the juice hasn't been worth the squeeze during this time. Been hurt a lot. Obviously appeared in less than 60% of the games. I think they've only won 3 playoff series during his time in LA. Obviously when he came, they thought him and PG were going to bring championships. Must have forgot this is still the Clippers, ladies and gentlemen. They're still the Slippers. No matter how you rebrand, reshape, new arena, whatever you're doing, still the Clippers. But yeah, so according to one Clippers insider says, quote, "This has been a nightmare. He's an incredibly talented player when he's healthy, but as everyone knows, he's rarely healthy, and his camp is just so difficult to deal with. His time here, thankfully, is coming to an end soon." This was in the Dallas Hoops Journal. There was also an article by Baxter Holmes from ESPN today, detailing, outlining, chronicling what it's been like with Kawhi over the past 6 years during his time in LA. But I just want to get your opinion. You hear the situation, the saga going on. But before we do, we got to talk the Clippers squad that they have coming, on paper at least, for this season.
It's nice. I mean, listen, okay, we can talk about the past. It hasn't panned out, but you know, when he was making these demands, he was hot. Right? He was cooking like flapjacks out there. You know what I mean?
Just the chip.
Chip, Finals MVP. So I'm pretty sure, you know, to come to the Clipper squad, he demanded a lot of stuff. You wasn't going to get him without it, so you got him and PG. So I'm pretty sure he was asking for everything that he can get his eyes on. I would have. Anybody would have. Like you're talking about where he was at that moment in time. So, you know, you couldn't match. You gotta remember, he was going to make more as a Toronto Raptor. So for them to match it, they had to give extra shit. All right? I won't. If he said I want half for Malibu, and shit, okay, let's go. Well, I want free shit downtown, like whatever he wanted in that moment in time, they were going to give it. They were going to give it to him for him to land there. So, you know, that is just business.
And I think from some Baxter Holmes, a very well-respected journalist, that he interviewed like over a dozen people, Clippers insiders, other GMs, people kind of just familiar with the situation. So a lot of people on the Clippers side basically they saw how that relationship with the Spurs and why that relationship tarnished ultimately Toronto, winning the chip. Everybody I think agrees at that point the trade, obviously in an SGA, and all that to get PG, Kawhi. Before I told the Clippers I'm not coming unless y'all get PG, so Clipper frantically get that deal done. Everybody at that time think that PG goes to Kyrie and MVP over that season with OKC. So everybody makes that trade at that point, but obviously that duo left much to be desired. But just looking at it, I think he signed for $3 million just because the Clippers knew how to leverage that. Any other team was sign show getting checks. No. Everything we done, resume. You're right, resumes. For everybody in the chat who asking about Gills Arena will be coming back soon. We are waiting for information and updates. Got the other show with your buddy Skip going right now, the football show. We shall be back.
Hey, let us, you got to pretend that we know what's going on. We're going to be back in October between the 1st and the 31st. We should be back.
I hope so. But just want to point out, shout out to everybody, Season 4 Gills Arena, first 3 seasons in 2.5 years. Gil, you built that account to 1.13 million subscribers, over 900 million views. That's the Gills Arena. So shout out to the show. We've never been able to that football show with consistency. So don't forget about it. 900 million views.
treat Kawhi like this, he's the oldest he's playing good. Like I said, just trying to figure out, we're talking about getting someone that's stature in that jersey, and this is how you're going to end the relationship. Your money can't change the history. I believe it's eligible for extension next summer. You got an extension area. You got an extension area. But I mean, it's one of those things where you've been providing billing, you gotta see. It's you have to. Like, it's not about the legacy that you're trying to leave. Right? If you go to his name and kick him out, a lot of hungry, you're gonna be reluctant. And that's what I think I talked about a little bit earlier. So he signed that 3 for 1, which is real big. He's all 4 for 220. When he signed that, the Clippers basically you probably get that from any other team. They're gonna check the ball fast. They're gonna see. Be able to look at the field and see how much we can keep him on the low with the reps. Yeah, he signed teams really good. It seems on both sides they've been doing good by each other. Right? The only thing that came in the way is Kawhi being, right? Just haven't gotten that guy. I mean, you know what? Whatever happened, they should just erase that. In the sense of, obviously, if he's still affected today, that means what was going on as a San Antonio Spurs. You gotta sign him. Like, he wasn't ready. Right? Him getting outside evaluations, obviously, he knew something was wrong, and what they were saying in the medical staff of Spurs, we can say after today, because he is still injured from that injury. I mean, it went down to his knee. I mean, you know, damage, trying to play through injuries. One by one time. There's any person. Your episode number 4 on Bill Green show. That's just it. Bill Green is not just but like you said, that's the thing. All the other teammates obviously they're not the ones. But how much is somebody yourself work on that's what you do. Dedicate to the game, watching film, playing the training program. That's what real ball. Being injured is hard because you don't know anything else. KD don't know anything else. LeBron don't know anything else. Kawhi don't know anything else. Curry don't know anything else. Right? Giannis, like you got these guys that sit there and they just train all day and work all day. You take them away from the game, they don't have it. Right? So you get depressed if you can't train. So like that, he's not pressing his knee because he's in extreme support. Like making sure his jump was wet, his jump was ready, and he's on his knees and he's on his legs. And he just doesn't have the slack. That is an issue. You have injury to guys. And they're just going to keep happening because they're going to get their name.
Chill had to change up the